Simple woman mocked by engineers until she fixes the engine that had been dead for 10 years. Amanda Miller was wiping her hands on an old rag when she heard the laughter coming from the lab. She had been working as a janitor at Hope Metal Works, a small company in suburban Chicago, for 3 days and still wasn't used to the way the engineers treated her. "Look at this, everyone," said Richard Thompson, the head engineer, pointing at Amanda as she passed by with her cleaning bucket. "The new janitor is staring at the engine in room 5 again." Amanda felt her face grow warm. She couldn't help it. Every time she passed by the room with that huge, silent machine, something inside her stirred, a curiosity she couldn't explain. The engine sat there, motionless, covered in dust, like a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. "Leave her alone," laughed Michael Peterson, one of the younger engineers. "She probably thinks it's a giant vacuum cleaner." The others laughed too. Amanda gripped the broom handle tighter and kept working, pretending she didn't hear. But she heard every word, every laugh, every comment about how a simple woman like her couldn't possibly understand anything about engineering. What they didn't know was that Amanda had grown up in her father's workshop. Since she was little, she'd watched old Jack fix engines, water pumps, generators. She'd never had formal training, but her hands knew the sound of every part, the rhythm of every gear, the whisper a machine made when something was wrong. "Amanda!" shouted Mrs. Wilkins, the cleaning supervisor. "Come here, girl. I need to talk to you." Amanda left the bucket in the hallway and walked to the supervisor's office. Mrs. Wilkins was a 60-year-old woman with graying hair, always tied in a tight bun. She'd worked at the company for over 20 years, knew every corner of the place, and had everyone's respect. "Sit down," Mrs. Wilkins said, pointing to the plastic chair beside her desk. "How are you settling in?" "Fine, Mrs. Wilkins. The work isn't hard." "And the engineers?" "I know they've been making jokes." Amanda hesitated. She didn't want to seem like someone who complained right at her first job. "They don't mean any harm," she lied. "Amanda, I've known these men for years. They're good at their jobs, but they have one problem. They think only they understand machines." Mrs. Wilkins leaned forward. "Tell me something. Is it true your father was a mechanic?" "Yes, he fixed everything in his shop." "And did you learn anything?" Amanda smiled for the first time in days. "I learned a lot. From the time I was 8, I'd stay there, watching, helping. By the time I grew up, I knew how to change oil, adjust a carburetor, even fix a radiator." "I thought so." Mrs. Wilkins drummed her fingers on the desk. "You know that engine in room 5? "I do. I heard it's been broken for a long time." 10 years. 10 years, and the best engineers in this company still can't get that machine running again. They've spent a fortune bringing in experts from Chicago, New York, even from overseas. Nothing. Amanda felt a tingling in her hands. It always happened when she was near a mechanical challenge. What happened to it? No one knows for sure. One day it was working perfectly, the next it just stopped. No noise, no response to any command. It's like it died. The two sat in silence for a moment. Outside, they could hear the engineers discussing some project. "Mrs. Wilkins, can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear." "Why are you telling me this?" The supervisor smiled. "Because in 20 years here, I've never seen anyone look at that engine the way you do. Your eyes shine, Amanda, like you're seeing something. The others don't." Amanda felt her heart race. It was true. Every time she passed by room 5, she had the feeling that the machine was trying to talk to her, whispering about its problem, asking for help. "Do you think they'd let me take a look?" Mrs. Wilkins burst out laughing. "Sweetie, those men would rather scrap the engine than admit a janitor might have a useful idea." "Then how?" "Leave it to me. I'll find a way for you to be alone with that machine. But it has to be discreet, understood?" Amanda nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. Finally, she'd have the chance to examine up close that mechanical mystery that had intrigued her since day one. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 hours later, Amanda was alone in room 5. Mrs. Wilkins had sent all the engineers to an urgent meeting on the second floor, and made sure no one would bother them for the next 30 minutes. The machine was even more imposing up close, a massive industrial engine with pipes, valves, gauges, and connections sprawling like the tentacles of a metal octopus. Amanda walked around it, observing every detail, every oil stain, every bolt. She pulled out the small flashlight she always carried and began illuminating the darker parts. The smell of old oil and rusted metal brought back memories of her father's workshop. How many times had she seen old Jack do exactly this? Walk around a troubled machine, observing, listening, feeling. "What happened to you?" she whispered. Running her hand gently over one of the pipes, that's when she noticed something odd. One of the hoses, which should have been connected to a valve near the center of the engine, was loose, not completely disconnected, but with a gap that shouldn't be there. Amanda crouched to examine it closer. The connection was nearly imperceptible, but it was there. Someone had loosened it just enough to break the seal. Was it sabotage or just carelessness? "What are you doing here?" Amanda startled and turned. Quickly. Richard Thompson stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression furious. "I was cleaning, Mr. Thompson." "Cleaning? With a flashlight in hand, fiddling with the engine?" Amanda swallowed hard. Behind Richard, the other engineers appeared, all wearing the same indignant expression. "Who told you to come in here?" asked Michael Peterson. "Mrs. Wilkins said to clean all the rooms." "This room is restricted," Richard said, stepping closer. "Only technical staff are authorized here." "I didn't touch anything. I was just..." "Just what?" "Trying to fix the engine." Richard scoffed. "You really think you could solve in 5 minutes what trained engineers haven't fixed in 10 years? The others laughed too. Amanda felt her cheeks burn with shame and anger. "I just noticed there's a loose hose over there." "A loose hose?" Michael stepped forward. "Show us, expert." Amanda pointed to the connection she'd found. The engineers moved closer to look. "That's not a loose hose," Richard said after inspecting it. "It's supposed to be like that. That connection has intentional slack for thermal compensation. But if it's not sealing properly..." "Listen here," Richard cut her off, irritated. "You're a janitor. Your job is to clean floors, not give engineering advice. Understood?" Amanda nodded, humiliated. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and left the room under the engineers' mocking gazes. In the hallway, she ran into Mrs. Wilkins, who immediately noticed her downcast expression. "What happened?" "They caught me in there, said I'm just a janitor and shouldn't give my opinion." "And did you give an opinion?" "I just mentioned a connection that seemed loose." Mrs. Wilkins shook her head. "Those men are too proud to accept help from someone they consider beneath them. But don't lose heart, Amanda. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the ones the experts can't see." For the rest of the day, Amanda tried to focus on her work, but she couldn't stop thinking about the engine. There was something wrong with that connection, she was sure of it. The instinct she'd inherited from her father had never failed her. That afternoon, while cleaning the second-floor bathroom, she overheard a conversation that left her even more intrigued. "Dr. Williams is coming next week," said a voice she recognized as Richard's. "The German specialist?" asked another engineer. "That's the one. If he can't get the engine running, the company president will authorize selling it for scrap. After all that money spent, there's no way around it. We've tried everything. It's over $2 million worth of equipment, just sitting there for 10 years. Amanda stopped cleaning. $2 million? That engine was worth that much, and they were just going to throw it away if the German specialist couldn't fix it. That night, in her small house on the outskirts of town, Amanda couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the engine, the loose connection, the engineer's arrogance. She remembered her father, how he always said machines speak to those who know how to listen. "What would you do, Dad?" she whispered to the photo of old Jack on her nightstand. The next morning she arrived at work with renewed determination. She wouldn't give up so easily. If that engine was asking for help, she'd find a way to help it. During lunch break, she sought out Mrs. Wilkins. "I need to talk to you." "What is it, dear?" "About the engine. I heard the engineers say they're bringing in a German specialist. If he can't fix it, they'll sell it for scrap." "That's true. Dr. Williams is a legend in the field. If he can't do it." "Mrs. Wilkins, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm sure I know what's wrong with that engine. The supervisor studied her for a long moment. "Amanda, do you understand that if you're wrong, you could lose your job?" "I do. But if I'm right, I could save the company $2 million. And if the engineers find out you tampered with the engine without authorization? You could say you told me to do a deep cleaning, that it needed all the accumulated dust removed." Mrs. Wilkins fell silent, clearly torn between caution and curiosity. "What kind of problem do you think it is? The connection I pointed out yesterday. I'm sure it's not sealing properly. If that's it, just tightening it will get the engine running again." "Amanda, do you realize what you're saying? That such a simple flaw went unnoticed by dozens of specialists for 10 years. I know how it sounds, but sometimes that's exactly what happens. Everyone looks for the complicated problem and misses the simple one." Mrs. Wilkins sighed. "All right, I'll give you one more chance, but this time I'll keep watch at the door. If anyone comes, you stop immediately and go back to cleaning." Amanda smiled, her heart racing with excitement. "Thank you, Mrs. Wilkins. I won't let you down." "I hope not, dear, I hope not." An hour later, Amanda was alone with the engine again. This time, though, she went straight to the point. She grabbed a wrench she'd hidden in her cleaning supplies and went to the suspicious connection. She examined the part carefully. The looseness was minimal, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Amanda positioned the wrench and turned it, a quarter turn clockwise. The connection sealed completely. For a moment, nothing happened. Amanda stared at the engine, waiting for some sign. Then she remembered. She had to turn it on to know if it had worked. She looked for the control panel and found a red button labeled Start. She took a deep breath and pressed it. The silence continued. Amanda felt a pang of disappointment. Maybe Richard was right. Maybe she really didn't understand anything about engineering and was just making a fool of herself. But then she heard a faint sound, almost inaudible, a weak hum coming from inside the engine. She put her ear close to the machine, and the sound became clearer. The engine was trying to start. Something was still obstructing it, but the main problem seemed to have been solved. Amanda examined the rest of the machine, looking for other irregularities. That's when she noticed one of the valves was in a different position from the others. All of them were facing left, except one that was turned right. Without hesitation, she turned the valve to match the others. The hum grew louder. Amanda went back to the control panel and pressed the button again. This time, along with the hum, she heard the sound of gears moving. The engine was working. Not perfectly yet, but it was working. There were still a few small adjustments to be made, but the main obstacle had been removed. "Amanda!" Mrs. Wilkins shouted from the doorway. "The engineers are coming back!" Amanda quickly turned off the engine and put away the wrench. She grabbed the cleaning rag and started wiping the pipes, pretending she was just dusting them off. "What's going on here?" Richard asked as he entered the room with the other engineers. "Just a deep clean, like you asked, Mrs. Wilkins replied. "Amanda's getting rid of all the dust that built up on the engine." Richard eyed the machine suspiciously. "Why does it smell like oil in here?" Amanda's heart raced, but Mrs. Wilkins answered without hesitation. "Must be from the special cleaner she's using. It removes old grease." Richard didn't seem convinced, but he didn't say anything else. Amanda finished cleaning under the watchful eyes of the engineers and left the room. In the hallway, Mrs. Wilkins caught up with her. "So, did you get anywhere?" "The engine started," Amanda whispered, barely containing her excitement. "What do you mean, started?" "It made noise, the gears moved. It's not perfect yet, but it's working." Mrs. Wilkins looked at her in disbelief. "Amanda, are you sure about what you're saying?" "I am. I need to make a few more adjustments, but the main problem is fixed." "My God, and if this is true—" "It is, Mrs. Wilkins. I heard it, I saw it. The engine is alive again." The supervisor wiped her forehead, clearly nervous. "Now what? What do we do? I need to go back and finish the job. There are still a few things that need adjusting. Amanda, do you realize this could cause serious trouble? If the engineers find out, they won't find out if you help me." Mrs. Wilkins fell silent for a long moment, clearly torn between caution and the incredible possibility that a simple janitor had succeeded where dozens of experts had failed. "All right," she finally said, "but this time we'll have to be even more careful. The engineers are suspicious." "What do you mean?" "Richard told me to keep you away from room 5. Said janitors have no business messing with technical equipment." Amanda felt a wave of frustration. "But I have to finish." "I know, dear. We'll have to come up with another plan." They spent the rest of the afternoon figuring out how Amanda could get back to the engine without raising suspicions. Mrs. Wilkins knew everyone's schedules and habits at the company well, and she finally had an idea. On Fridays, the engineers always leave early for happy hour at Joe's bar. Only the night guards stay, and they mostly stay in the security booth. If you stay late, I can say I have to finish the deep cleaning. Exactly, but you'll have to be quick. 1 hour tops. That's enough time. On Friday, Amanda could barely focus on work. She spent the day watching the engineers, waiting for them to leave. At 5 in the afternoon, she saw Richard and the others walking out the main door, chatting excitedly about the game they were going to watch at the bar. Amanda waited another half hour to make sure they wouldn't return. "Now, Amanda," said Mrs. Wilkins. "You have 1 hour. No more than that." Amanda nodded and headed to room 5, her heart racing. It was her last chance to prove she was right. The engine was exactly as she had left it. Amanda turned it on again and listened to the familiar hum. Now she needed to make the final adjustments. She checked every valve, every connection, every gauge. There were 3 more valves in the wrong positions and 2 connections that needed tightening. She worked carefully and precisely, remembering every lesson her father had taught her. Machines are like people, Amanda. They need care, attention. If you listen closely, they'll tell you where it hurts. After 40 minutes of meticulous work, Amanda returned to the control panel. She took a deep breath and pressed the start button. The engine roared. Not a low hum, not a hesitant noise. A loud, powerful roar, like an animal waking from a long sleep. Amanda laughed with emotion and surprise. She had done it. The engine was running perfectly. She ran to the door to call Mrs. Wilkins, but heard voices in the hallway. Voices she recognized. "I'm sure I heard something," said Richard. "Must be the wind in the windows," replied Michael. No, it was different, like an engine starting. Amanda felt panic take over. The engineers had come back. She quickly turned off the engine and put away her tools. "Let's check room 5, said Richard. Amanda looked around desperately. There was no way out without being seen. The only exit was the door they were coming through. Then she had an idea. She grabbed the cleaning rag and crouched behind the engine as if she were cleaning a hard-to-reach spot. "What are you doing here?" Richard asked as he entered the room. "Cleaning, Mr. Richard," Amanda replied, trying to keep her voice calm. "Mrs. Wilkins told me to finish the deep cleaning today." "Alone? At this hour?" She said it was urgent. Richard eyed the room suspiciously. Then he walked over to the engine and placed his hand on it. "This engine is hot," he said, frowning. Amanda's heart stopped. Of course it was hot. It had just been running for a few minutes. "Must be from the heat of the day," she said, trying to sound natural. "Michael, come here, feel this." Michael approached and also placed his hand on the engine. "It really is hot, hotter than it should be. And there's a smell of burnt oil in the air," Richard added. Amanda knew she was caught. There was no plausible explanation for the engine being hot and smelling of oil if it hadn't been running recently. "Amanda," Richard said, stepping closer with a serious expression, "I'm going to ask you a question and I want an honest answer. Did you tamper with this engine?" Amanda looked at the 2 engineers, then at the engine she had managed to revive and made a decision. "Yes, Mr. Richard, I did." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard and Michael stared at her as if she had admitted to committing a heinous crime. "You tampered with it?" Richard repeated, incredulous. "With a $2 million piece of equipment?" "I just made a few adjustments." "A few adjustments? Do you have any idea what you just did? You could have permanently damaged a machine that already cost the company a fortune." "But I got it to work," Amanda said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Work?" Richard laughed scornfully. "This machine hasn't worked in 10 years. Do you really think you fixed it with your inexperienced little hands? I know it seems impossible, but it doesn't seem impossible. It is impossible. Richard Thompson was visibly irritated. Now, Michael, call security. We'll have to file a report for property damage. Hold on, Richard, said Michael Peterson, stepping closer to the control panel. What if she's telling the truth? What do you mean? What if the engine is actually working? Richard looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. Michael, did you drink at happy hour? Only one way to find out. Michael placed his hand over the start button. May I? Go ahead, but it'll be a waste of time. This machine's been dead for 10 years. Michael pressed the button. The engine roared back to life, the sound echoing through the room like thunder. Richard stood frozen, mouth agape, staring at the machine that had just been revived. No way, he whispered. It's working, said Michael, checking the gauges on the panel. All indicators are normal. Pressure, temperature, rotation, everything's perfect. Richard approached the engine as if seeing a ghost. He touched the pipes, watched the valves moving, listened to the rhythmic sound of the gears. How? He asked, turning to Amanda. How did you do it? Amanda was still nervous, but now she also felt a hint of satisfaction. I fixed a seal on a connection and adjusted the position of some valves. What connection? Amanda pointed to the part she had tightened on the first day. This one, it was loose, not sealing properly. Richard examined the connection, then looked at Michael. But we checked this hundreds of times. Apparently not well enough, Michael replied, still fascinated by the gauges. And the valves? Richard asked. Some were in the wrong positions, probably moved during repair attempts and no one noticed. Richard fell silent for a long moment, clearly struggling to process what had happened. Amanda, he finally said, do you realize you just did something extraordinary? I just fixed what was broken, Mr. Thompson. No, you don't understand. This engine was examined by the best specialists in the country. We spent millions trying to repair it. And you? How long did it take you? 2 sessions, about an hour each. Michael shook his head in disbelief. This is going to shake everything. We know about machine diagnostics. How did you know? Richard asked. How did you figure out exactly where the problem was? Amanda thought for a moment. I didn't know, but when I first looked at the engine, I had a feeling it was trying to tell me something, like it was asking for help. Machines don't talk, Richard said automatically. To those who know how to listen, they do. My father always said that. The 2 engineers exchanged glances. There was something about the simplicity of Amanda's explanation that unsettled them. They had spent years studying complex theories, sophisticated formulas, elaborate diagnostic systems, and a janitor with no technical training had solved the problem just by listening to the machine. Amanda, Michael said, what else did your father teach you? A lot. That every machine has its own personality, that complex problems sometimes have simple solutions, that you have to look with care, not just knowledge. Care? Richard repeated as if the word were foreign. Yeah, machines have feelings too. If you treat them poorly, they won't cooperate. If you treat them well, they'll help you find what's wrong. It was a philosophy completely different from what they'd learned in college. To them, machines were just mechanical parts governed by precise physical laws. The idea that they could have feelings seemed almost primitive, but the engine was running. After 10 years of being idle, it was working perfectly. We need to report this to the board, said Richard. What are you going to say? Asked Michael. The truth, that a janitor fixed what we couldn't. This will cause a scandal. It will, but it's better than trying to hide it and someone finding out later. Amanda listened to the conversation with growing apprehension. She hadn't thought about the consequences of what she'd done. She just wanted to help, to prove she was right about the engine problem. Mr. Thompson, she said timidly, am I going to lose my job? Richard looked at her for a long moment. Amanda, you just saved this company $2 million. Why would you think you'd lose your job? Because I messed with something I shouldn't have. It's true, you disobeyed direct orders, but the result is incredible. What's going to happen to me? I don't know, that will have to be decided by the board, but I can promise you one thing, you won't be punished for fixing the engine. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. On Monday morning, Amanda arrived at work unsure of what to expect. Over the weekend, she couldn't stop thinking about what had happened on Friday. Would she be fired, promoted, or simply ignored? Mrs. Wilkins was waiting for her at the entrance with an anxious expression. "Amanda, how was your weekend?" "Tough, Mrs. Wilkins. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened." "Neither could I, dear. Neither could I." "Did you hear anything?" "Only that. The board was called for an emergency meeting on Saturday, and that Dr. Williams, the German specialist, cancelled his visit." Amanda felt a chill in her stomach. "Cancelled?" "Apparently it's no longer necessary." They walked together to the locker room where Amanda stored her things. The atmosphere felt different. The other employees looked at her strangely, some whispering as she passed. "Mrs. Wilkins, everyone's looking at me differently." Word got out, Amanda. In a small town like ours, nothing stays secret for long. "What word?" "That you fixed the engine no one else could." Amanda sighed. She had hoped the matter would stay within the company, at least for now. "Amanda Miller," a voice called behind them. They turned and saw a man in a grey suit, looking to be in his 50s, approaching. "Yes, that's me. My name is Robert Jenkins, the company's administrative director. Could you come with me, please?" Amanda glanced at Mrs. Wilkins, who nodded encouragingly. "Go on, dear. Everything will be fine." Amanda followed the director down hallways she'd never walked before. They went up to the 3rd floor where the boardrooms were located. It was a world completely different from what she knew. Soft carpets, paintings on the walls, dark wooden furniture. "Please come in," said Robert, opening the door to a meeting room. Inside, 5 people were seated around an oval table. Amanda recognized Richard and Michael. The other 3 were strangers, but their clothes and demeanor made it clear they were important figures in the company. "Amanda, I'd like to introduce you to our board," said Robert. "This is Mr. Gerald Harrison, the company president. This is Mrs. Catherine Rogers, technical director. And this is Mr. Paul Henderson, financial director." Amanda greeted them all shyly, feeling completely out of place in the formal setting. "Please have a seat," said the president, pointing to an empty chair. Amanda sat down, her hands trembling slightly from nerves. "Amanda," the president began, "Richard and Michael told us about what happened on Friday. We'd like to hear your version of events." Amanda looked at the engineers, who nodded encouragingly. From the first day I saw the engine, I felt something was wrong with it, like it was trying to work, but something was holding it back." "Go on," said Catherine Rogers. "So I asked Mrs. Wilkins to let me take a closer look. I saw a loose connection, and some valves in the wrong positions." "And you just fixed it?" asked Paul Henderson. "Yes, sir. I tightened the connection and adjusted the valves." "Amanda," the president said, leaning forward, "you do realize this engine had been idle for 10 years? That we spent millions trying to fix it?" "I understand. Yes, sir." "And yet you thought you could solve it so easily?" Amanda hesitated. How could she explain the intuition she'd inherited from her father? How could she talk about listening to machines without sounding crazy? "I didn't think it would be easy. I just thought it was worth trying." "Where did you learn about engines?" asked Catherine. "From my father. He had a small repair shop and I always helped." "Was your father an engineer?" "No, Mum. He was a mechanic. Never went to college, but he understood machines like no one else." The directors exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. An employee with no technical training had achieved what the best specialists couldn't. "Amanda," the president said, "we have a proposal for you." "A proposal?" "We'd like you to work on our technical team, not as a janitor, but as a machine diagnostics consultant." Amanda was stunned. "I don't understand, sir." "It's simple. You clearly have a special talent for identifying mechanical issues. We want you to use that talent to help us with other problematic machines." "But I don't have a degree." "Degrees are important," said Catherine, "but results matter even more. And you've delivered results none of our degreed engineers could." "What exactly would my role be?" "When we have a machine our technicians can't fix, you'd be called in for a second opinion," explained Paul Henderson. "And the salary?" 5 times what you earn as a janitor, said the president. Amanda felt her head spin. It was an incredible opportunity, but also terrifying. Can I think about it? Of course, but don't take too long. We have several problematic machines that could benefit from your special method. Amanda left, the meeting in shock. She walked the halls as if in a dream until she reached the locker room where Mrs. Wilkins was waiting anxiously. So, what happened? They offered me a job on the technical team. Amanda, that's wonderful. I don't know if I'm ready, Mrs. Wilkins. What if I can't solve other problems? What if it was just luck? Sweetheart, what you did wasn't luck. It was knowledge, intuition, and courage, rare qualities in any field. But what if the engineers don't accept me? Can you imagine working every day with people who thought I was incompetent? Richard and Michael were in the meeting. Did they support the proposal? They seemed to, yes. Then don't worry about that. When you prove your worth, people recognize it. Amanda spent the rest of the day thinking about the offer. It was a chance to completely change her life, but also a huge risk. What if she failed? What if she couldn't repeat the engine's success? That afternoon, while cleaning the administrative offices, she overheard a conversation that made her stop and listen. I can't believe we're putting a janitor on the technical team, said an unfamiliar woman's voice. It's a controversial decision, replied a man's voice, but the results speak for themselves. Results? It was pure luck. Anyone could have tightened a loose connection. So why didn't any of the specialists who inspected the engine notice that loose connection? Because, well, these things happen. Julie, you're being prejudiced. I'm not being prejudiced, I'm being realistic. This woman has no education, no experience, no qualifications. She has what matters, results. Amanda felt her chest tighten. Apparently not everyone at the company was happy about her promotion. There would be resistance, criticism, constant doubts about her abilities. She was thinking of turning down the offer when she heard footsteps approaching. It was Richard. Amanda, can I talk to you? Of course, Mr. Thompson. About the board's proposal. Are you going to accept? I'm still thinking about. Suasa, can I be honest with you? Go ahead. At first, I was skeptical. I thought it was just luck. But I spent the weekend studying what you did, analyzing every adjustment, every fix. Fandra, you weren't lucky, Amanda. You were methodical, precise, efficient. You did exactly what a good technician would do, only better. What do you mean better? You went straight to the point. You didn't get lost in complex theories, didn't try complicated solutions. You identified the real problem and fixed it in the simplest way possible. That's how my dad taught me. Your dad was a wise man, and you inherited that wisdom. Amanda felt a little more confident. Do you think I should accept? I think it'd be crazy to refuse. You have a gift, Amanda. It'd be unfair not to use it to help more people. What about the other engineers? Will they accept me? The smart ones will. The proud ones might struggle at first, but they'll come around when they see the results. What if I fail? Everyone fails sometimes, even the best engineers. What matters is learning from mistakes and keeping at it. That night, Amanda talked at length with her older sister, Jennifer, who lived in the same city. I can't believe you're thinking of saying no, Jennifer said. It's the chance of a lifetime. But it's scary, Jen. What if I don't know what I'm doing? Amanda, you've spent your whole life underestimating yourself. Remember when Dad got sick and you took care of the shop for 3 months? I remember. How many customers? Came back complaining about shoddy work? None. How many praised your work? Plenty. Then why doubt yourself now? Amanda sighed. Because at Dad's shop, I was at home. Here, it's different. These are educated people with degrees, years of experience. And yet they couldn't fix the engine you fixed in 2 hours. It was luck. Stop talking nonsense, Jennifer snapped. You have a special talent, Amanda. You always have. Dad saw it, I see it, now this whole company sees it. The only one who doesn't is you. What if I accept and regret it? What if you refuse and regret it? Will you spend the rest of your life wondering what if? The next morning, Amanda arrived at work with her decision made. She sought out Robert Jenkins and told him she accepted the offer. Excellent, the director said. You start. So next Monday. For now, we'll keep you part-time as a janitor, part-time on the technical team. It's a gradual transition. Part-time? Yes. From 7 to 11, you'll work in cleaning. From 1 to 5 on the technical team. Until you're fully adjusted to the new role. Amanda nodded. It seemed like a sensible transition. And my first task? We have a compressor that's been acting up for 3 weeks. The technicians have tried everything. It'll be your first official challenge. Amanda felt a mix of excitement and nerves. It was time to prove the engine incident hadn't been a fluke. Over the weekend, she mentally prepared for the new challenge. She reread all the old technical manuals her father had left, reviewed basic mechanics, and organized her personal tools. On Monday, she woke up earlier than usual, took a long shower, put on her best clothes, and headed to the company. It was the first day of a new life. Mrs. Wilkins was waiting for her at the entrance with a proud smile. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous but excited." "I'm sure you'll do great." Amanda spent the morning doing her usual cleaning work, but her mind was already focused on the afternoon. During lunch, Michael approached her. "Ready for your first challenge?" "I think so. Tell me about the compressor." "It's a large industrial machine used in production. It started making a strange noise 3 weeks ago, and now it can't maintain proper pressure." "What have you tried so far?" "We've replaced filters, checked seals, lubricated all moving parts, and inspected the electrical system. Nothing worked." "And the noise, what's it like?" Michael paused. "It's hard to describe, an irregular knocking like something's loose inside." Amanda nodded. She already had a suspicion. "Can I see the machine?" "Of course. That's why you're here." They walked together to the production area, a huge warehouse full of operating machinery. The noise was deafening, but Amanda immediately picked out the irregular sound Michael had described. The compressor was a blue and silver machine, the size of a small car. Even when idle, it gave off a strong smell of heated oil. "I'll need a few tools," Amanda said. "What kind?" "Adjustable wrench, screwdriver, flashlight, lubricating oil." "That's it? For now." Michael looked surprised. The previous technicians had used complex equipment, digital scanners, vibration analyzers. Amanda was asking for basic tools. While Michael gathered the tools, Amanda inspected the compressor externally. She walked around the machine, observing every detail, listening to every sound. That's when she noticed something the other technicians had missed. A small oil stain on the floor, right under one of the compressor's side joints. "Michael," she called, "come look at this." "What is it?" "This oil stain. It's fresh." "Yeah, we noticed that. We checked all the seals in this area. They're perfect. But you didn't check this." Amanda pointed to a small screw securing an access panel inside the compressor. Michael bent down for a closer look. "This screw seems a little loose. More than a little." Amanda took the screwdriver and gave the screw half a turn. It tightened easily, confirming it had been loose. "That would explain the oil leak," Michael said, "but not the noise." "Let's see." Amanda turned on the compressor. The irregular noise persisted, but seemed slightly quieter. "It's a little better," Michael said, "but still not right." Amanda turned the compressor off again and kept examining it. There was something else. She was sure of it. Then she noticed one of the belts connecting the main motor to the compression system had incorrect tension. It wasn't loose enough to slip, but not tight enough to run smoothly. "This belt's tension is off," she said, pointing. "How can you tell?" Amanda pressed the belt with her finger. "See, when I press here, it gives more than it should. The right tension only allows about half an inch of movement." Michael tested it too and nodded. "You're right. How do we adjust it?" Amanda located the tensioning mechanism and carefully tightened the belt until it was just right. "Now let's test it." She turned the compressor back on. The irregular noise was completely gone. The machine ran smoothly, with the steady hum it was supposed to have. Michael checked the pressure gauges. Pressure's rising normally. Problem solved. Amanda smiled, feeling a wave of relief and satisfaction. Two simple problems that together created a complex symptom. Incredible. You solved in half an hour what we couldn't solve in 3 weeks. Sometimes the problem isn't where we think it is. Michael shook his head, impressed. Amanda, can I ask you a personal question? Go ahead. How did you develop this ability to see what others don't? Amanda thought about the question. I guess it's because I wasn't taught to look for complicated problems. My father always said, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Meaning? Meaning the simplest explanation is usually the right one. The previous technicians looked for sophisticated problems because they're sophisticated technicians. I looked for simple problems because I'm a simple person. You're not simple, Amanda. You're efficient. The news of Amanda's second success spread through the company even faster than the first. In a week, she had solved 2 problems that had cost the company a lot of money and many hours of work. Robert Jenkins called her for a meeting. Amanda, we're very impressed with your performance. Thank you, sir. So much so that we'd like to make you a new offer. What kind of offer? We want you to work full-time on the technical team. No more cleaning. Amanda felt a twinge of nostalgia. Despite everything, she liked the cleaning work. It was simple, predictable, relaxing. What if I can't solve other problems? Based on what we've seen so far, we don't believe that's a real concern. What would my title be? Mechanical Diagnosis Consultant. Amanda laughed. Sounds too fancy for someone who was a janitor 2 weeks ago. Titles are less important than skills, and your skills are rare. Can I keep Mrs. Wilkins as my supervisor? Robert seemed surprised by the request. She doesn't have a technical background, neither do I. But she knows me, trusts me, supports me when I need it. That's more important than degrees. Well, if that's what you want, it is. That afternoon, Amanda told Mrs. Wilkins about her new position. Amanda, how proud I am. From janitor to technical consultant in 2 weeks. And you're still my boss. What do you mean? I asked them to keep you as my supervisor. Mrs. Wilkins was moved. Sweetheart, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. You believed in me when no one else did. I'll never forget that. The two hugged, emotional. The following week, Amanda officially started as a full-time consultant. Her first task was to inspect a welding machine that was producing defective welds. This time, however, the problem was more complex. There were no obvious signs, visible leaks, or abnormal noises. The machine appeared to be working perfectly, but the welds came out weak and inconsistent. Amanda spent 2 hours examining the equipment without finding anything unusual. That's when she decided to do something different. Observe the machine running through an entire production cycle. She stood there, motionless, watching every movement, listening to every sound, paying attention to the smallest details. Then she noticed something almost imperceptible. During welding, there was a tiny variation in the intensity of the electric arc's light. The variation was so subtle, it was only noticeable if you paid close attention, but it was there. Something was causing fluctuations in the electric current during the welding process. Amanda checked all the electrical connections and found the problem. One of the power cables had some internal wires broken. From the outside, it looked normal, but inside there was a partial break causing current fluctuations. Replacing the cable completely fixed the issue. Once again, Amanda had found a flaw that the previous technicians couldn't identify. The difference was that this time, she had to rely not just on mechanical knowledge, but also on detailed observation and patience. Michael, who had watched the whole process, was impressed. Amanda, how did you know the problem was in the electrical supply? By the flickering light. Unstable current produces an unstable arc, but that flicker was almost unnoticeable. Almost, but it was there. How did you train your observation to be so detailed? Amanda smiled. My father used to take me fishing when I was little. He said fishing teaches patience and observation, that whoever learns to see nature's subtle signs also learns to see machines' subtle signs. Your father was truly wise. He was, and I miss him every day. The conversation was interrupted by Richard, who approached with a worried expression. Amanda, we need you urgently. What happened? The main production line has stopped. 3 different machines are malfunctioning at the same time. Amanda felt her heart race. This was her biggest challenge yet. Multiple machines failing simultaneously. When did the problem start? An hour ago. Suddenly, one after another, the machines began failing. What kind of failures? Different ones. One won't turn on, another is overheating, and the third is making a terrible noise. Amanda considered the situation. 3 different machines failing at once wasn't a coincidence. There was a common cause. Take me there. They hurried to the production line, where they found a scene of controlled chaos. Technicians rushed back and forth trying to diagnose the issues. The production supervisor gestured nervously, clearly under pressure. Amanda examined the 3 malfunctioning machines. They were in different positions on the line, but all were connected to the same power and compressed air system. Richard, show me the main control panel for this line. They walked to a large panel with dozens of gauges, switches, and indicator lights. Amanda carefully studied each one. Air pressure, voltage, amperage, temperature. Everything seemed normal, but something was off. The compressed air pressure is fluctuating, she said, pointing to one of the gauges. It is, but it's within the normal range, Richard replied. But it shouldn't fluctuate, it should be steady. Amanda followed the air supply lines until she found the central compressor feeding the entire line. It was different from the one she had fixed the week before, much larger and more complex. This compressor has a problem, she said. But it's running fine, the production supervisor protested. It's not. Look at the gauges. The pressure varies between 85 and 90 psi. It should stay constant at 88. A 5 psi variation wouldn't cause this many issues, Richard said. It would if the machines are sensitive to pressure changes. Amanda inspected the compressor and quickly identified the issue. The pressure regulator was faulty. It wasn't completely broken, but it couldn't maintain steady pressure. We need a new pressure regulator, she said. We don't have a replacement, the supervisor replied. Not until Monday. And we can't wait until Monday. We have an urgent order that needs to go out today. Amanda thought for a moment. There was a temporary fix, but it was risky. I can try manually adjusting the current regulator. It's not ideal, but it might work until we get the new part. Is it safe? If I monitor it constantly, yes. And if it fails, it could damage the compressor. But if we don't try, we'll definitely lose the order. After a brief discussion, they decided to try. Amanda partially disassembled the regulator and made delicate adjustments to the internal components. It was meticulous work that required absolute precision. After an hour of work, she managed to stabilize the pressure. The 3 machines on the production line started working normally again, but Amanda had to stay by the compressor for the rest of the day, monitoring it and making micro-adjustments as needed. Only when the new regulator arrived on Monday afternoon could she install the permanent fix. Amanda, said the production supervisor, you just saved a $500,000 contract. I just did my job. No, you did much more than that. You improvised a creative solution under pressure. It was true. Amanda was discovering that her abilities went beyond diagnosing problems. She could also create innovative solutions when conventional ones weren't available. The news of the production line rescue spread not only through the company, but across the whole town. Amanda Miller, the former janitor-turned-technical consultant, was becoming a local celebrity. The following Sunday, when she went grocery shopping downtown, several people greeted her and asked about her work, some with genuine admiration, others with skeptical curiosity. Amanda, called Mrs. Helen, the bakery owner, is it true you fix machines now? It's true, Mrs. Helen, and you earn well, better than before. That's wonderful, dear. You've always been clever, even when you were little. But not all reactions were positive. In the bank line, she overheard 2 men talking about her. I'm not buying this story, one said. A woman with no education fixing machines that engineers can't? There's something fishy here. Maybe she's just lucky, the other replied. Luck doesn't explain 3 successes in a row. Someone must be helping her behind the scenes. Amanda felt her face grow warm, but decided not to engage. She knew there would always be skeptics, people who'd rather believe in a conspiracy than accept that someone ordinary like her could have special skills. On Monday, she arrived at work to find Robert Jenkins waiting with a serious expression. Amanda, we need to talk. Is there a problem? Not exactly a problem, an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? St. Benedict Metal Works, our main competitor, is facing a serious issue with their machines. They reached out unofficially, asking to borrow you for a few days. Amanda was surprised. Borrow? They'd pay a substantial fee for your time, and you'd get a significant bonus. But why would they come to me? Don't they have their own technicians? They do, but apparently none of them could solve the problem, and your reputation has reached their ears. Amanda considered the offer. It was flattering to be sought out by a competitor, but also worrying. What if I can't fix their problem? Then you come back here, and we carry on as usual. And if I succeed, then your reputation will grow even bigger. Can I think about it? Of course, but they need an answer by Wednesday. For the next 2 days, Amanda was torn. On one hand, the opportunity was tempting. On the other, she feared failing publicly and tarnishing the reputation she'd built. She talked to Mrs. Wilkins about the dilemma. What do you think? I think you should accept. Why? Because if you always stay in your comfort zone, you'll never know how far your abilities can take you. What if I fail? What if you succeed? Amanda, you've already proven you have a special gift. Now, you need the courage to test it in more challenging situations. Would you come with me? If they let me, of course. On Wednesday, Amanda told Robert she accepted the offer. Great! They expect you Friday morning. Us? You and Mrs. Wilkins. She'll be your official assistant. Amanda smiled. Having Mrs. Wilkins by her side made everything less intimidating. On Friday, the two headed to St. Benedict Metal Works, located on the other side of town. It was a larger company than Hope Metal Works, with more modern facilities and sophisticated equipment. They were greeted by Nathan Parker, the technical director of St. Benedict. Welcome, Amanda. Your reputation precedes you. Thank you. What exactly is the issue I need to look into? We have a large hydraulic press that's experiencing intermittent failures. Sometimes it works perfectly. Other times it just stops mid-process. How long has this been happening? 3 months. We've brought in technicians specialized in hydraulic systems, even an expert from Germany. Nothing. And the pattern of the failures? Is there any regularity? Nathan seemed impressed by the question. None of the previous technicians asked that. Yes, there's a pattern. The failures happen most often on Mondays and Tuesdays. Amanda and Mrs. Wilkins exchanged glances. That was very specific and interesting information. Take me to the machine. The hydraulic press was impressive. A massive machine, the size of a small room used to shape large metal parts. The hydraulic system included powerful pumps, oil reservoirs, control valves, and enormous pistons. Amanda walked around the machine, observing each component. Everything appeared to be in perfect condition. Tell me about the maintenance routine for this machine. Full maintenance every weekend, Nathan replied. Oil change, filter cleaning, lubrication of all moving parts. Who performs the maintenance? An outsourced team. They come Saturday morning and finish Sunday afternoon. Amanda considered the information. Maintenance on the weekend, problems more frequent at the start of the following week. Can I see the hydraulic oil you use? Nathan took her to the storage area where the oil drums were kept. Amanda examined the labels carefully. Is this the oil specified by the machine's manufacturer? Yes, exactly what's in the manual. And it's always from this supplier. Always. Amanda took a small sample of the oil in a clean vial. Do you have a lab for oil analysis? We do. Why? I want to check if this oil meets specifications. 2 hours later, Amanda had the results of the analysis. The oil was slightly outside the viscosity specifications. It wasn't bad enough to cause damage, but it was borderline. Nathan, this oil might work at normal temperatures, but it could cause issues when the machine is cold. How so? On Mondays and Tuesdays, the machine is cold because it's been idle over the weekend. The oil, already borderline in specs, becomes even more viscous in the cold and causes hydraulic system failures. But we've always used this oil. Maybe the supplier slightly changed the formula recently, or maybe the storage conditions have changed. Amanda examined the oil drums again and noticed something interesting. The manufacturing date was Recent, but the expiration date was very close. "This oil is almost expired," she said. "But still within the valid period," Nathan protested. "Within the period, but barely. Hydraulic oil gradually loses its properties as it ages. This one has degraded characteristics." The solution was simple: replace it with new, higher quality oil. But Nathan hesitated. The new oil costs 30% more. And how much does each hour of the press being down cost? Nathan did the mental math and realized the more expensive oil would be far more economical in the long run. They replaced the oil and tested the machine all afternoon. It worked perfectly without a single failure. "Amanda," Nathan said at the end of the day, "once again you found a cause we hadn't considered. How did you know the problem might be in the oil?" "By the timing of the failures. If it happens more at the start of the week, it has something to do with the machine being idle over the weekend. And when a hydraulic machine has issues related to sitting idle, it's usually the fluid." Simple logic, but effective. That's what my father always said: complicated problems sometimes have simple causes. Amanda returned to Hope Metalworks on Monday as a hero. The news that she had solved in one day a problem their competitors couldn't fix in 3 months spread quickly. Robert Jenkins greeted her with a huge smile. "Amanda, you just secured our company the most profitable contract in the last 5 years." "How so?" "St. Benedict was so impressed they want to hire our technical consulting services regularly, and specifically your services. Is that good or bad?" "It's great. You've become our main source of competitive advantage." Amanda felt a mix of pride and pressure. It was wonderful to be valued, but also scary to know such high expectations were being placed on her. "And now, what's the next challenge?" "We have companies from 3 neighboring cities asking for your services. You're officially in high demand." That week, Amanda visited 5 different companies, solving problems ranging from engines that wouldn't start to faulty cooling systems. Each success boosted her reputation and brought new challenges, but it was at the 6th company that she faced her first real failure. It was a furniture factory with an issue in a CNC, computer numerical control, cutting machine. The machine cut wood with millimeter precision, but had started making inaccurate cuts for no apparent reason. Amanda examined the machine for hours, checked all the mechanical components, tested the calibration, and inspected the control software. Everything seemed perfect. For the first time since starting in technical consulting, she couldn't identify the problem. "I need more time," she told the factory owner. "How much time?" "I don't know, this problem is different from the others." The factory owner, a man named Robert Fields, wasn't pleased. "I heard you solve any problem in a few hours." "I solve many, but not all." "Then maybe your reputation is exaggerated." Amanda felt the comment like a punch to the gut. It was the first time someone had directly questioned her competence. "Can I come back tomorrow to keep investigating?" "You can, but I can't wait too long. I have urgent orders to fill." Amanda went home that night feeling depressed and worried. What if she really couldn't solve this problem? What if her streak of successes was just luck, as some people suspected? She talked to Jennifer about the dilemma. "Amanda, you're being too hard on yourself. No one solves 100% of the problems they face. But up until now, I had solved 100%. And that created an unrealistic expectation, both in others and in yourself. What if I can't solve this one?" Then you'll learn something important, that failing is part of growing. The next morning, Amanda returned to the factory with a different approach. Instead of just examining the machine, she decided to observe the entire production process. She spent hours watching the operators work, paying attention not just to the machine but to the environment around it. That's when she noticed something subtle. One of the windows near the machine was always open, and there was a constant draft passing through the area. "Robert," she called, "is this window always open?" "Yes, for ventilation. The machine generates a lot of heat." "And has it always been open?" "No, we started opening it about a month ago when the heat got worse." Amanda examined the machine, again this time paying attention to the effects of the air current. She discovered that the constant airflow was causing micro-vibrations in the machine structure, vibrations so small they weren't noticeable to the touch, but enough to affect the precision of the cuts. The solution was simple. Redirect the airflow with a small divider that maintained ventilation while eliminating the vibrations. Incredible, Robert said after the machine resumed making perfect cuts. Who would have thought an air current could cause so much trouble? Sometimes the hardest problems have the simplest causes, Amanda replied, echoing her father's philosophy once more. But this case taught her something important. The first investigation didn't always reveal the real cause. Sometimes she had to observe the broader context, not just the machine in isolation. Back at Hope Metalworks, she shared the experience with Richard. Amanda, you're growing as a consultant. This case was more complex than the previous ones. How so? You didn't just find the problem, you discovered a new diagnostic methodology, observing the environment, not just the equipment. It was kind of instinct. Educated instinct. You're developing your own problem-solving approach. It was true. Amanda was realizing that each case taught her something new, that her skills were expanding beyond the basic mechanical knowledge she'd inherited from her father. 2 weeks later, she faced her biggest challenge yet. A company from Chicago reached out to solve a problem involving not one, but 5 different machines, all failing simultaneously and seemingly unrelated. Amanda, Robert said, this is a very serious case. If you solve it, your reputation will spread across the entire state. If I fail, it'll be a very public failure, Amanda finished. Exactly. Do you want to take the challenge? Amanda looked out the window, recalling her father's words. Those who don't take risks never get the chance to discover what they're capable of. I accept. The Chicago-based company, United Industries, was massive. It occupied a complex of 5 warehouses and employed over 1,000 people. The problem had started the previous Monday. 5 key machines on the main production line began experiencing various, seemingly random failures. Amanda arrived accompanied by Mrs. Wilkins and was greeted by a team of 10 engineers, led by a man named Dr. Albert Williams, the same German specialist who would have been called to examine Hope's engine before Amanda fixed it. Miss Miller, Dr. Williams said with a slight accent, your reputation precedes you. I hope you can help us with this mystery. Amanda felt immense pressure. Standing before an internationally renowned expert was intimidating. Dr. Williams, can you explain exactly what the problems are? Of course, Machine A has intermittent overheating. Machine B has random electrical failures. Machine C shows abnormal vibrations. Machine D can't maintain consistent speed. Machine E produces parts out of specification. And they all started at the same time. All within the same week, Monday. For Machine A, Tuesday for B, Wednesday for C, Thursday for D, Friday for E. Amanda considered the pattern. 1 machine per day sequentially. It wasn't a coincidence. Can I see a diagram of the factory floor? Dr. Williams showed her a detailed layout of the plant. Amanda carefully studied the position of each machine. Interesting, the machines are spread throughout the complex. There's no obvious physical connection between them. Exactly, that's why we're baffled. But there could be non-obvious connections. Electrical system, compressed air, cooling water. We've checked all that. Each machine has independent power. Amanda spent the first day examining each machine individually. All of them had real problems, but with no apparent cause. It was as if there were an invisible saboteur. On the second day, she decided to try a different approach. Instead of focusing on the machines, she focused on the people. Dr. Williams, who performed maintenance on these machines recently? Different teams for each one. No overlap. And cleaning, any outsourced company? Yes, ABC Industrial Cleaning. They've worked here for years. When was the last deep cleaning? Dr. Williams checked his records. 2 weeks ago. The Friday before the problems started. Amanda felt a twinge of suspicion. Can I speak to the cleaning supervisor? Of course. The cleaning supervisor, a man named Joseph Carter, was called to speak with Amanda. Mr. Carter said, Amanda, during the cleaning 2 weeks ago, was there anything unusual? Joseph Carter hesitated. Well, we had a new employee that week. His first day on the job. And did he work alone? No, always under supervision, but, well, he asked some strange questions. What kind of questions? He wanted to know how the machines worked, what chemicals we used for cleaning, that sort of thing. Amanda felt her heart race. Where is this employee now? He left the following week, said he found another job. Amanda asked to inspect the chemicals used by the cleaning crew. Most were standard products, but one caught her attention. An extremely strong degreaser that shouldn't be used near sensitive electronic equipment. Dr. Williams, could this degreaser damage electronic components if misused? It could, but our cleaning crew is trained not to use it near control panels. And if someone intentionally used it near the panels? Dr. Williams understood the implication immediately. You think it was sabotage? I think someone applied this product to the electronic components of each machine, causing gradual damage that only showed up days later. They carefully examined the control panels of all the machines and found microscopic traces of the degreaser in places it should never have been. My God, said Dr. Williams. This was deliberate sabotage. But why? Amanda had a suspicion, but chose not to speculate. The priority was fixing the machines. It took 2 days to clean all the affected components and replace the damaged parts, but every machine was soon running perfectly again. Amanda, Dr. Williams said afterward, you didn't just solve a technical problem, you uncovered a crime. How did you know it was sabotage? The sequential pattern caught my attention. True random failures don't follow a schedule. Where there's a pattern, there's intent. Brilliant. You think like a detective as much as a technician. Amanda went home with a sense of accomplishment, but also concern. For the first time, she had faced a problem deliberately caused by someone else. The world was more complex and dangerous than she'd imagined. The following week, she learned the Chicago company had identified the saboteur, a disgruntled former employee who had taken a temporary job with the cleaning company specifically to get revenge. He was fired and later prosecuted. Robert Jenkins congratulated her on her success. Amanda, you're officially on the map. Companies from 3 states are asking for your services. That's good, but also scary. Why scary? Because the bigger the reputation, the greater the pressure, and one day I'll face a problem I can't solve. Maybe. But until then, you'll have helped dozens of companies and saved millions of dollars. It was true. In 3 months as a consultant, Amanda had solved over 30 cases, from simple issues to complex mysteries like the sabotage. Her reputation grew with each success. But it was the following week that she faced her greatest personal and professional test. She received an unexpected call from Jennifer. Amanda, I need to tell you something important. What happened? Remember Brian, that guy I was dating? I do. He proposed to me. Amanda was surprised. Jennifer had only been dating Brian for 6 months. And are you going to accept? I already did, but there's a complication. What kind of complication? He got a promotion at work, but he'll have to move to Boston. And he wants me to go with him. Amanda felt her heart tighten. Jennifer was her only close family, her confidant, her best friend. When are you moving? At the end of the month. So soon. His company can't wait. Amanda spent the rest of the conversation trying to seem happy for her sister, but inside she was devastated. She'd be completely alone at a time in her life when she needed emotional support. The most. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about whether she should ask Jennifer not to go, if she had the right to interfere with her sister's happiness, if she could handle the loneliness. The next day, she arrived at work visibly down. Mrs. Wilkins noticed immediately. What happened, dear? Amanda told her about Jennifer's decision. I understand how you feel, Mrs. Wilkins said, but your sister has the right to her own life. I know, I just didn't expect it to happen so fast. Changes never happen on our time, Amanda. They happen when they're meant to. What if I can't handle all the work pressure alone? You will, and besides, you're not alone. You have a whole team here supporting you. It was true. Over the past few months, Amanda had built strong relationships, not just with Mrs. Wilkins, but with Richard, Michael, and other colleagues. It wasn't the same as having a sister, but it was real support. 2 weeks later, Amanda helped Jennifer pack. It was an emotional moment for both of them. Amanda, Jennifer said, are you sure you'll be okay? I will be. You taught me to be strong. And you taught me we should never underestimate our abilities. They hugged for a long time. Promise you'll visit me in Boston? I promise. And you promise you'll come back whenever you can? I promise. After Jennifer left, Amanda spent a few days feeling melancholy. The house felt too empty, too quiet. But gradually, she adapted to the new reality. And it was precisely during this period of adjustment that she received the most important invitation of her career. Robert Jenkins approached her with a serious expression. Amanda, we've received a very special invitation. What kind of invitation? The American Society of Mechanical Engineers wants you to participate in the National Industry Congress. Amanda was speechless. Me? But I'm not an engineer. No, you're not. But your methods are revolutionizing how many professionals think about machine diagnostics. What exactly do they want? For you to give a lecture on your problem-solving techniques. Amanda felt a mix of honor and terror. Robert, I don't know how to speak in public. I've never given a lecture in my life. Amanda, you talk to machines. Talking to people can't be harder. But these are trained engineers with years of experience who want to learn from you. It's extraordinary recognition. Amanda asked for a few days to think. The idea of speaking to hundreds of engineers terrified her, but it also excited her. She talked to Mrs. Wilkins about the dilemma. What do you think? I think your father would be proud. But what if I embarrass myself? What if you succeed? Amanda, you've proven so many times you're capable of extraordinary things. Why would this time be any different? Because this time it's not about fixing machines. It's about speaking to important people. The most important people already recognize your worth. Now it's time for you to recognize your own worth. In the end, Amanda decided to accept the invitation, but with one condition: Mrs. Wilkins would have to come with her. I don't understand anything about engineering, protested Mrs. Wilkins. Neither do I, formally. But you understand people, and you'll help me not to lose my nerves. The Congress would be held in Chicago, in the auditorium of a major university. Amanda spent weeks preparing her presentation, with help from Richard and Michael. What matters, said Richard, is being yourself. Don't try to imitate academic speakers. Your strength lies in simplicity and practicality. But what if they ask technical questions I can't answer? Be honest. Say you don't know. Nobody knows everything. The week of the Congress, Amanda and Mrs. Wilkins traveled to Chicago. It was Amanda's first time leaving the suburbs, and the big city left her both amazed and intimidated. The university auditorium was enormous, with seating for over 1,000 people. Amanda nearly froze when she saw the crowd of engineers, university professors, and industry professionals. My God, she whispered to Mrs. Wilkins, what am I doing here? You're making history, dear. Amanda was introduced as the woman revolutionizing mechanical diagnostics in America. The host mentioned her biggest successes and described her as an intuitive consultant. When she stepped onto the stage, Amanda's legs felt weak. She looked at the crowd and for a moment was paralyzed. Then she saw Mrs. Wilkins in the front row, smiling encouragingly, and remembered her father's words, "Machines talk to those who know how to listen, so do people." Good afternoon, she began, her voice still shaky. My name is Amanda Miller. Until 6 months ago, I was a janitor. Today, I'm standing here talking to you about how to fix machines. There were a few quiet chuckles in the audience, not mocking, but warm. I know many of you must be thinking, what can a former janitor teach trained engineers? The answer is maybe nothing, or maybe something different. Amanda spoke for 45 minutes about her diagnostic philosophy, illustrating it with cases she had solved. She explained the importance of listening to machines, looking for simple solutions first, and observing the context beyond the equipment. You've studied complex theories, advanced formulas, sophisticated systems, she said in closing. I learned 3 simple things. Every machine has personality. Complex problems sometimes have simple solutions, and care fixes more than knowledge. When she finished, there was silence for a few seconds. Amanda thought she had completely failed. Then the auditorium erupted in applause, not just polite, but enthusiastic. People stood up, cheered, some even whistled in approval. During the Q&A, Amanda fielded dozens of questions. Some were technical, which she honestly admitted she couldn't answer. Others were about her methods, which she explained simply and clearly. "Miss Miller," a university professor asked, "do you believe intuition can be taught?" "I don't know, but I think it can be developed. Careful observation, patience, respect for the machine, anyone can learn those things." "And how did you develop this intuition?" "Growing up in my father's workshop, watching him treat every machine like a friend asking for help." After the talk, Amanda was surrounded by dozens of professionals wanting to talk, exchange cards, invite her to projects. It was overwhelming but also rewarding. A young engineer approached with shining eyes. "Amanda, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure." "How do you handle the pressure of being the miracle consultant?" Amanda smiled. "By always remembering I'm no miracle. I'm just someone who learned to pay attention, and who was lucky enough to have a father who taught me that machines have a soul." On the trip back home, Mrs. Wilkins was beaming. "Amanda, you were brilliant. I saw people crying during your speech." "Crying? Why?" "Because you reminded them why they chose this profession. The love for machines, for creation, for solving problems." "I just talked about what my father taught me." And that's exactly what they needed to hear. Back at Hope Metalworks, Amanda was welcomed as a hero. Everyone had seen news about her participation in the Congress. "Amanda," said Robert Jenkins, "you put our company on the national map. We're getting consulting requests from all over the country. Is that good or bad?" "It's excellent for business, but I understand it might be stressful for you." It was true. The national fame brought incredible opportunities, but also enormous pressure. Every new case came with sky-high expectations. In the following weeks, Amanda traveled through several states, solving increasingly complex problems. Hospital equipment in Colorado, port systems in New York, textile machines in North Carolina. Not all cases were successes. Some problems she couldn't solve, others took much longer than expected. But her success rate remained impressive. About 90% of cases resulted in effective solutions. It was during a consultation in Denver that she received a call that would once again change her life. "Amanda," said a familiar voice. "Jennifer, how are you?" "Good, but I miss you. And I have news." "What news?" "I'm pregnant," Amanda screamed with joy in the middle of the hotel. "Really? That's wonderful." "And there's more. Brian got promoted again. He's now regional manager. And guess where the regional office is?" "Where?" "Chicago. We're moving back to Chicago." Amanda was thrilled. Having Jennifer close again would be wonderful. "When are you moving?" "Next month." "And Amanda, I have a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" "How about you move to Chicago?" "Too? With your reputation, you'd have way more opportunities in the city." Amanda was surprised. She hadn't considered leaving the suburbs. "But my work here..." "You could still serve clients from the suburbs. Chicago is just 2 hours away by car, and you'd have access to much bigger clients." It was a tempting possibility, but also scary. Chicago was a big, impersonal, competitive city. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, but really think about it, okay? It'd be wonderful to have you nearby when the baby comes." That night, Amanda couldn't sleep. Being close to Jennifer and her future nephew was tempting, but it would also mean leaving behind everything she'd built. The Hope team, Mrs. Wilkins, the simple suburban life. She talked to Mrs. Wilkins about the dilemma. "What's your heart telling you?" "It's divided. Part of me wants to stay here where it all began. Another part wants to be with Jennifer and have more professional opportunities." "And your head?" "My head says Chicago offers possibilities I won't have here." "Then maybe it's time for a new adventure. You wouldn't be upset if I left?" "Honey, I'd be proud. You've grown, matured, become a nationally recognized professional. It's natural to seek new horizons. But I'll miss everyone here. And we'll miss you. But whenever you need home, you know where to find us." Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda constantly thought about Jennifer's proposal. She researched the technical consulting market in Chicago, talked to clients who could refer her in the city, weighed living costs and growth possibilities. Finally, she made her decision. She would accept the move. She first shared her decision with Robert Jenkins. "Amanda, we knew this day would come. You've outgrown our small town." "It's not that, Robert. I need to be close to my family." "I understand. Our partnership doesn't have to end. You can still serve our clients as an external consultant. I'd love that. When do you plan to move?" "At the end of the month. Then we have 2 weeks to prepare your farewell." The news of Amanda's move spread quickly through town. In the following days, she received dozens of phone calls and visits from people wanting to say goodbye. The owner of St. Benedict Metalworks came in person to thank her for her services. Several other business owners made a point of visiting her. Even the town mayor appeared to congratulate her on her success. "Amanda," said the mayor, "you put our town on the map. Now everyone knows where we are because of the miracle consultant who lives here." "I'm no miracle, Mr. Mayor. I was just lucky to learn from a wise father. Modesty is a virtue, but you should recognize your own worth." In her last week, Amanda visited all the important places in her life there. The house where she grew up, her father's workshop, now turned into an auto parts store, and the cemetery where he was buried. "Dad," she said at his grave, "I think I've honored your teachings. Now I'll try to take them to an even bigger place." On her last day at Hope Metalworks, the company threw a farewell party. Every employee was there, from the directors to the production workers. Richard Thompson gave an emotional speech. "Amanda taught us that formal knowledge matters, but intuition and dedication are essential, that humility and competence can go hand in hand, that an ordinary person can do extraordinary things." Mrs. Wilkins also spoke, tears in her eyes. "Amanda came here as a janitor and leaves as a teacher to us all. She taught me never to underestimate anyone's potential, especially our own." When it was Amanda's turn to speak, she was visibly moved. "You all gave me the chance to discover abilities I didn't know I had. You supported me when I doubted myself. You taught me teamwork matters more than individual success. I'll carry every lesson I learned here with me, and I promise, no matter where I am, I'll always remember where it all began." On moving day, the whole town seemed to gather to say goodbye. The procession of cars accompanying her to the town limits was overwhelming. Mrs. Wilkins was the last to bid farewell. "Sweetheart, you have my number, my address, my heart. Anything you need, anytime you call me. Thank you for believing in me from day one. Thank you for proving miracles happen when we least expect them." The trip to Chicago was filled with mixed emotions: sadness at leaving the town that welcomed and transformed her, excitement for the new possibilities ahead. Jennifer and Brian greeted her at the airport with signs and balloons. Their reunion was full of tears and laughter. "Amanda," Jennifer shouted, "finally, I missed you so much." "Me too. And look at that belly. How's the baby?" "Growing every day. The doctor says it's a boy." "A nephew, how wonderful." Brian had rented Amanda a small but comfortable apartment near theirs in a middle-class neighborhood on the city's west side. "It's temporary," he said, "until you settle in and decide where you want to live permanently. It's perfect. Thank you for all your help." In her first days in Chicago, Amanda felt lost. The city was huge, noisy, impersonal. She was used to the quiet pace of small-town life, where she knew everyone and everyone knew her. But gradually, she adapted, and most importantly, she began working. Her reputation had preceded her. Within a week, she already had 5 appointments scheduled, all with major companies. The first case was at an automobile manufacturer in the ABC industrial cleaning area. The problem was complex. An entire production line was experiencing intermittent defects costing millions in rework. Amanda applied her usual methodology: careful observation, attentive listening, and pattern seeking. It took 3 days, but she identified that the issue stemmed from micro-fluctuations in the power grid caused by faulty equipment in a neighboring factory. "Incredible," said the technical director of the manufacturer. "Our experts looked for the problem inside the factory. You discovered it was outside. Sometimes the problem isn't where we think it should be." The second case was even more challenging. A hospital experiencing intermittent failures in critical ICU equipment. It was a life-or-death situation with immense pressure. Amanda found that the failures were caused by electromagnetic interference from a newly installed wireless communication system. The solution involved repositioning equipment and installing specific shielding. "Dr. Amanda," said the hospital's medical director, "you literally saved lives with this diagnosis. I'm not a doctor. I'm just someone who learned to pay attention. To us, you're an honorary doctor." In 3 months in Chicago, Amanda handled over 40 cases, solving problems in industries, hospitals, universities, and tech companies. Her reputation grew exponentially. She also built her own team, hiring 2 young, newly graduated engineers who believed in her work philosophy, a secretary to manage her increasingly packed schedule, and even an accountant to handle the now complex finances. "Amanda," Jennifer said during lunch, "you're not just an independent consultant anymore. You're becoming a businesswoman. It's strange to think that way. I still see myself as the janitor who fixed engines. Maybe it's time to stop seeing yourself that way and start seeing who you really are, a successful professional." It was true. Amanda had prospered beyond her wildest dreams. Her schedule was booked for months, with contract offers from major corporations and invitations to speak at universities. But success also brought new challenges. The pressure was constant, her schedule exhausting, and she began missing the simplicity of her early days. It was during this time that she received a phone call that made her rethink some priorities. "Amanda," came the familiar voice of Mrs. Wilkins. "Mrs. Wilkins, how are you?" "I'm fine, dear, but I'm calling with sad news." Amanda's heart tightened. "What happened?" "Hope Metalworks is closing." "Closing? How?" "The economy hasn't been good, and we lost several major contracts. The president decided to shut down operations." Amanda was shocked. Hope was where it had all begun, where her life had completely changed. "And the employees? Everyone will be laid off, me, Richard, Michael, everyone." "Oh no, and when will this happen?" "By the end of the month." Amanda spent the rest of the call trying to comfort Mrs. Wilkins, but inside, she was devastated. The company that had discovered and supported her was dying. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about her friends who would lose their jobs, the history that would be lost, and the place that would always be special to her. Then, she had a bold idea. The next morning, she called Robert Jenkins. "Robert, is it true Hope is closing?" "Unfortunately, yes, we couldn't stay competitive. Can I make a proposal?" "What kind of proposal?" "I'll buy the company." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Amanda, do you understand this is a company in the red?" "I do, but I also understand it has valuable equipment, competent employees, and a strategic location." "What would you do with it?" "Turn it into a technical consulting firm. Use the infrastructure to create a base of operations to serve suburban Chicago." "Do you have the capital for that?" "I have enough savings to make an initial offer. The rest we can negotiate." Robert was surprised but intrigued. They scheduled a meeting for the following week. Amanda consulted Jennifer about the idea. "Amanda, are you sure it's a risky investment?" "Maybe, but it's also a chance to save jobs and build something bigger." "And what about your life in Chicago?" "I'd split my time between both places. Chicago for major clients, the suburbs for base operations." "That would be exhausting." "It would, but it would also be more meaningful." At the meeting with Robert and the other partners of Hope Metalworks, Amanda presented a detailed proposal. She would buy the company for a symbolic amount, take on its debts in exchange for an extended payment period, and keep all current employees. "This is a risky deal for you," Robert said. "Every business is risky, but this one has sentimental value beyond finances. What if it doesn't work out? Then at least I tried." After a week of negotiations, they reached an agreement. Amanda would become the new owner of Hope Metalworks, which would be renamed Hope Technical Consulting. The news spread through town like wildfire. The former janitor, who had become a renowned consultant, was returning to save the company where it all began. Mrs. Wilkins cried when she heard the news. "Amanda, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did. You gave me a chance when no one else would. Now it's my turn to give you one." Richard and Michael were also moved. Amanda, Richard said, "Are we working together again?" "Yes, but now as partners, not as boss and employee." "Partners how?" "Every employee who stays will get a share of the new company's profits. If we're building something together, we'll share the rewards." The transformation of Hope took 3 months. Amanda invested in new equipment, renovated the facilities, created a training center for technicians, and established partnerships with local universities. The new company offered 3 services: consulting for complex problem-solving, training in intuitive diagnosis, and preventive maintenance based on listening to machines. The official launch of Hope Technical Consulting was an event that brought together business owners from across the region, university representatives, local officials, and, most importantly, all the employees and their families. Amanda gave an emotional speech. "This place changed my life. Now I want it to change many others. We aim to train a new generation of technicians who combine formal knowledge with practical intuition. Our mission isn't just to fix machines. It's to teach people to connect with technology in a more human and efficient way." Mrs. Wilkins, now promoted to Director of Human Resources, also spoke. "A year ago, Amanda was our janitor. Today, she's our savior." That proves talent and determination can overcome any obstacle. The first months of the new company were challenging. Running a business was very different from being an independent consultant. Amanda had to learn about cash flow, marketing, strategy, people management, and financial planning. But gradually the company thrived. The combination of her personal reputation and the original Hope team's competence created a unique edge in the market. In 6 months, Hope Technical Consulting was serving clients in 5 states, had graduated its first class of intuitive technicians, and was generating enough profit to pay off all the debts it had taken on. Amanda divided her time between Chicago, where she kept a small office for major clients, and the suburbs, where the company headquarters was located and where she felt most at home. It was during this period of growth that she received a call that left her stunned. "Amanda Miller," said a voice with a foreign accent. "Yes, speaking. My name is Dr. Klaus Miller from the Technical University of Munich, Germany." Amanda was surprised. Why would a German professor be calling her? "How can I help you, doctor?" "Ms. Miller, your reputation has reached Europe. We would like to invite you to an international conference on industrial diagnostics." "An international conference?" "Yes. The methods you've developed are being studied by universities in several countries. We'd like you to share your techniques with our researchers." Amanda was speechless. Her simple philosophy, based on her father's teachings, was being academically studied in Europe. "Dr. Miller, I think there's a misunderstanding. I didn't develop scientific methods. I just apply practical principles I learned in my father's workshop." "Exactly, it's that unconventional approach that interests us. You achieve results our traditional methods can't, but I don't speak German. The conference is in English, and will provide simultaneous translation. I need to think about it." "Of course, but it would be a unique opportunity to show the world that intuition can complement formal science." That night, Amanda talked at length with Jennifer about the invitation. "Amanda, this is an amazing opportunity, speaking at a German university. But it's terrifying. What if I disappoint their expectations?" "Have you disappointed any expectations so far?" "No, but then why would this time be any different?" "Because this time it's international, with real researchers." "Amanda, you are a real researcher, just practical, not theoretical." After a week of reflection, Amanda decided to accept the invitation. It would be her first international trip, her first presentation in English, her first contact with the formal academic world. The 2 months of preparation were intense. Amanda studied English intensively, prepared a detailed presentation on her methods, and organized documented case studies. Jennifer insisted on going with her. "I won't let you go to Germany alone on your first international trip." "But you're 7 months pregnant, and the doctor said I can travel. Besides, I want to see my sister make history." The trip to Munich was a transformative experience. Amanda had never imagined leaving the US, let alone speaking at one of Europe's most prestigious technical universities. The conference brought together over 500 participants from 30 countries, engineers, university professors, industrial researchers, representatives of major corporations. Amanda was introduced as the American who revolutionized intuitive diagnostics. When she stepped onto the stage, she felt small before the international audience. But then she remembered Mrs. Wilkins, Richard, Michael, and her father. She remembered she was there representing not just her methods, but an entire work philosophy based on simplicity and humanity. "Good afternoon," she began in hesitant English. "My name is Amanda Miller. I'm from the US. Until 2 years ago, I was a janitor." There were surprised murmurs in the audience, but Amanda continued. "Today I'll talk about how my father, a simple mechanic, taught me principles now being studied by universities, how intuition and science can work together, how machines have personality, and how that can help with diagnosis." For 40 minutes, Amanda presented her philosophy with practical examples, real cases, and demonstrations of techniques. She explained how to listen to machines, how to observe subtle patterns, how to find simple solutions to complex problems. When she finished, silence was followed by enthusiastic applause. During the Q&A session, she received fascinating questions from researchers eager to understand her methods better. "Professor Miller," asked a Japanese researcher, "how can we teach intuition in a formal academic setting?" First, by stopping calling it intuition. It's trained observation, educated listening, hands-on experience that can absolutely be taught. "And how did you develop this ability?" "By spending time with machines. A lot of time observing, listening, touching, feeling. There's no substitute for hands-on experience." After the lecture, Amanda was approached by dozens of people, professors wanting to collaborate on research, business owners offering contracts, students seeking mentorship. Dr. Miller sought her out specifically. "Amanda, we'd like to propose a formal partnership between our university and your company." "What kind of partnership?" "Student exchanges, joint research on intuitive diagnosis, developing methodologies that combine theory and practice." It was an incredible opportunity, but Amanda had doubts. "Dr. Miller, my company is small, based in suburban America, very different from a German university. That's exactly why it would be valuable. Our students need to learn that not all knowledge comes from books." Amanda accepted the partnership, establishing a program where German students would spend semesters at Hope Technical Consulting, and American technicians would have the chance to study in Munich. The flight back to the US was filled with reflection. In 2 years, Amanda had gone from janitor to international consultant. It was a transformation that still amazed her. "Amanda," Jennifer said during the flight, "do you realize what's happened? You've put America on the global map of technical diagnosis. It still feels unreal. Sometimes I wake up thinking I'll have to mop the floors at Hope again." Maybe it's good to hold on to that humility. It's one of your most important qualities. Back in the US, Amanda found a stack of invitations waiting, American universities seeking partnerships, multinational companies offering contracts, publishers proposing books about her methods. It was tempting to accept everything, but she had learned to be selective. She chose only projects that aligned with her philosophy and allowed her to maintain the quality of her work. One invitation that moved her deeply came from the University of Chicago. They wanted to create an elective course on intuitive diagnosis and asked her to teach it. "Amanda," said the mechanical engineering program coordinator, "this would be a groundbreaking course in America, combining academic theory with your practical experience. But I don't have the academic credentials to teach at a university. You have something more valuable, proven, real-world knowledge. Our students need to learn that engineering isn't just calculations and theory." Amanda accepted the offer. She would be a visiting professor 2 mornings a week, teaching engineering students how to listen to machines and develop technical intuition. The first class was nerve-wracking. 20 final-year students, all with far more formal training than her, all skeptical about what an intuitive consultant could teach them. "Good morning," Amanda said. "I know you're probably thinking, what can someone without a degree teach engineering students? The answer is maybe nothing, or maybe something you won't learn in any other class. During the semester, Amanda developed practical exercises where students learn to observe machines without using instruments, to identify problems just by observation and listening, and to develop a mechanical feel. At first, many students resisted. They were used to quantitative methods, precise measurements, mathematical analyses. The idea of feeling a machine seemed primitive, but gradually they were convinced. In the practical exercises, students who applied Amanda's methods consistently achieved better results than those who relied solely on instruments. "Professor Amanda," said a student during class, "why isn't this taught from the first year?" Good question. Maybe because it's easier to teach formulas than to teach sensitivity, but couldn't the two go hand in hand? They should. Theory without practice is empty. Practice without theory is blind. The ideal is to combine both. By the end of the semester, Amanda received enthusiastic evaluations from the students. Many said it was the most useful course in their entire program. The success at the University of Chicago led to invitations from other universities. Soon, Amanda was teaching at 3 different institutions, always maintaining her focus on the combination of formal knowledge and practical intuition. It was during this time that Jennifer gave birth. John Peter arrived on an October morning, healthy and loud. Amanda was in the operating room when her nephew came into the world, and it was one of the most emotional experiences of her life. "Hi, John Peter," she whispered, holding the baby for the first time. "I'm your Aunt Amanda. I'll teach you everything I know about machines." "Easy now." Jennifer laughed. "Let him grow a little before he becomes a mechanic. It's never too early to start observing the world around you." Jennifer's motherhood made Amanda reflect on her own life. At 38, she was professionally fulfilled, but sometimes she missed having a family of her own. Not that she was unhappy. Her life was full, meaningful, and purposeful. But watching Jennifer with John Pedro awakened a desire she had kept dormant. It was during a consultation in Indianapolis that she met Dr. Gabriel Foster, a biomedical engineer who worked with hospital equipment. Amanda had been called in to solve a complex problem with ICU machines. Dr. Gabriel was the hospital's technical supervisor and observed the entire diagnostic process. "Amanda," he said after she fixed the issue, "can I ask you a personal question?" "Go ahead. How do you see things that we, with all our training, can't?" "Maybe because you know too much and I know too little." Gabriel laughed. "That's the most philosophically profound answer I've ever heard about technical diagnosis. My father always said too much knowledge can blind you to simple solutions. Your father was wise. I wish I could have met him. He passed away a few years ago, but he left behind many lessons." Gabriel and Amanda began talking regularly. He was fascinated by her methods. She was impressed by his formal, technical knowledge. It was an interesting combination. He knew a lot about theory. She knew a lot about practice. Gradually, their friendship turned into something more. Gabriel was kind, intelligent, respected her work, and shared her passion for technology. "Amanda," he said during dinner 6 months after they met, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I'm in love with you." Amanda felt her heart race. She hadn't expected this confession, but realized she felt the same. "Gabriel, You don't have to answer now. I just wanted you to know I do want to answer. I'm in love with you too." The relationship between Amanda and Gabriel blossomed quickly. They shared not only love, but also a common passion for solving complex technical problems. Gabriel began accompanying Amanda on some consultations, applying his biomedical knowledge to her intuitive methods. It was a powerful combination. "You know," Gabriel said one evening, "we'd make a great team professionally too." "How so?" "Your methods applied to medical equipment could save many lives." "You think so?" "I'm certain. Medical equipment is especially sensitive. It needs precise and quick diagnosis." "It would be interesting to explore that." They began working together on specific medical cases. The combination of Gabriel's biomedical expertise and Amanda's diagnostic intuition produced exceptional results. At a hospital in Chicago, they solved a problem affecting neonatal incubators. At another, they identified flaws in dialysis equipment that were putting patients at risk. Amanda, Gabriel said after a particularly complex case, we should make our partnership official. Official how? By marrying me? Amanda was surprised. She hadn't expected the proposal at that moment. Gabriel, are you sure? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. But our worlds are so different. No, they're not. We both want to use technology to help people. We both believe intuition and science can work together. Our worlds are perfectly compatible. Amanda looked at Gabriel and saw not just the man she loved, but an ideal life and work partner. Yes, she said, I'll marry you. The wedding took place in Amanda's hometown, at the small church where she had been baptized. It was a simple but moving ceremony, attended by family, friends, and all their colleagues from Hope Technical Consulting. Mrs. Wilkins was Amanda's matron of honor, and Richard was Gabriel's best man. It was symbolic, the union not just of two people, but of two work philosophies. Amanda, Mrs. Wilkins said during the preparations, your father would be proud. You've found not only love, but a partner who understands and respects your work. I'm sure he'd approve of Gabriel. No doubt. A man who values your gifts and wants to work alongside you is a rare treasure. At the reception, Gabriel gave a speech that moved everyone. Amanda taught me that the most valuable knowledge doesn't come from books, but from careful observation and respect for the machines that serve humanity. I promise our union will also be a partnership to use technology for those who need it most. The first months of marriage were an adjustment. Gabriel moved to the suburbs, splitting his time between the hospital where he worked in Indianapolis and Hope Technical Consulting. Together, they developed a new division of the company, Intuitive Medical Diagnosis. It was a service specializing in hospital equipment, combining Gabriel's biomedical experience with Amanda's methods. The first major case for the new division came from a university hospital in Rochester. They were experiencing mysterious failures in cardiac surgery equipment, failures that endangered lives. Amanda, the medical director, said, we've already brought in technicians from the equipment manufacturer. No one can identify the problem. When did the failures start? 3 months ago, always during long surgeries, after 2 or 3 hours of operation. Amanda and Gabriel examined the equipment in detail. They were sophisticated machines with complex electronic systems and multiple sensors. Gabriel, Amanda said after 2 hours of observation, does this equipment run hotter than it should? Apparently not. The temperature is within normal parameters, but I detect a faint smell of overheated components. Gabriel checked the temperature sensors again. The sensors show normal temperature. What if the sensors are lying? Gabriel examined the sensors more carefully and discovered that one of them was incorrectly calibrated. It showed normal temperature, when in fact the machine was gradually overheating during long surgeries. Incredible, said the medical director. A miscalibrated sensor nearly caused tragedies. That's why it's important not to rely solely on instruments, Amanda explained. Sometimes our senses pick up things the sensors don't. The solution to the university hospital case earned the company a contract to review medical equipment across the entire regional hospital network. But it was the next case that truly tested the limits of Amanda and Gabriel's abilities. A children's hospital in Chicago was facing a critical problem. Their life support equipment was experiencing intermittent failures that had already resulted in 3 medical emergencies. Dr. Amanda, said the head of the pediatric ICU, we have premature babies depending on these machines. We can't afford any failures. The pressure was immense. This wasn't just about money or efficiency. Children's lives were at stake. Amanda and Gabriel spent an entire week at the hospital, observing the equipment in operation, talking to nurses and doctors, and analyzing failure patterns. The failures were truly mysterious. They occurred in different machines at random times, with no apparent pattern. Some technicians even suspected sabotage. Gabriel, Amanda said on the 4th night, something about this case bothers me. What? The failures always happen at night, never during the day. Could be a coincidence. or it could be a clue. Let's stay here overnight and observe. From Thursday into Friday, Amanda and Gabriel remained in the ICU, watching. At 2 in the morning, Amanda noticed something subtle. "Gabriel, do you hear that?" "What?" "A very faint hum. It's coming from outside the hospital." Gabriel listened closely and also caught the nearly imperceptible sound. "Sounds like a generator or some heavy equipment. Let's investigate." They left the hospital and walked around the block, searching for the source. 3 blocks away, they found a commercial building where a telecommunications company had recently installed a large transmission antenna. "Amanda," Gabriel said, "do you think this antenna could be causing electromagnetic interference with the hospital's equipment?" "It's possible. And what if the interference is stronger at night when there's less signal traffic?" "That makes sense. During the day, there are many competing signals. At night, this specific antenna's signal might become more dominant." They returned to the hospital and borrowed an electromagnetic radiation meter. They confirmed that there were spikes of interference overnight, exactly when the equipment failures occurred. The solution involved special shielding for the most sensitive equipment and negotiations with the telecom company to adjust transmission power during nighttime hours. "Dr. Amanda," the ICU head said, once the problem was resolved, "you literally saved babies' lives. We just did our jobs." "No, you did much more. You proved that careful observation is sometimes worth more than expensive equipment." The success at the Children's Hospital firmly established the reputation of the company's medical division. Within 6 months, they were serving hospitals in 5 states, always combining formal technical knowledge with intuitive observation. But rapid growth brought new challenges. Amanda was working 12-hour days, traveling constantly, and taking on ever greater responsibilities. "Amanda," Gabriel said one evening, "you're pushing yourself too hard. We have so many clients depending on us, and you can't handle them all personally. We need to expand the team. But how do I teach others to do what I do? It's so based on experience and intuition." By creating a structured training program, turning your experience into a replicable methodology, Gabriel was right. Amanda knew she couldn't be the only one capable of applying her methods. She needed to train other professionals. They spent 3 months developing a course on intuitive technical diagnosis that combined theory, practice, and observational sensitivity training. The first group of students included newly graduated engineers, experienced technicians, and even some doctors interested in hospital equipment. "Everyone," Amanda said on the first day of class, "I'm going to teach you how to listen to machines." It might sound strange, but machines really do speak. We just need to learn their language. For 6 months, Amanda intensively trained 12 professionals in her methods. Some had a natural aptitude, while others needed more time to develop the necessary sensitivity. "Amanda," said one of the students, a young engineer named Paul, "how did you develop this ability to sense things that instruments can't detect?" "Time and practice, and most importantly, respect for machines. When you treat a machine as a partner, not an enemy, it cooperates in the diagnosis." That sounds almost mystical. It's not mystical, it's practical. Machines have standard behaviors. When something changes, there's a reason. Our job is to identify that reason. By the end of the course, 10 of the 12 students could successfully apply the methods in real-world cases. It was the beginning of the spread of Amanda's techniques. With the newly trained team, Amanda was able to reduce her workload and focus on the most complex cases. She also had more time for her personal life. It was during this more balanced period that she and Gabriel began trying to have children. "Gabriel," Amanda said one morning, "what if we can't get pregnant? Then we'll consider other options. Adoption, treatments. What matters is that we want to build a family together. You'd be a wonderful father, and you'd be an amazing mother. I can just picture you teaching our kids how to listen to machines." Amanda laughed. "I'll let them choose their own passions, but if they want to learn about mechanics, I'll be here." 3 months later, Amanda discovered she was pregnant. The news brought immense joy to the couple. "Gabriel," Amanda shouted when she saw the test result, "we did it." "Really? We're having a baby." "We're having a baby!" They embraced and cried with emotion. It would be a new chapter in their lives, full of different but equally important responsibilities. Amanda's pregnancy was smooth. She kept working, but at a slower pace. Gabriel took on more responsibilities at the company so she could take care of herself properly. "Amanda," Mrs. Wilkins said, "how are you feeling?" "Good, but nervous." "What if I don't know how to be a mother?" "No one is born knowing. You learn by doing, like everything else in life." "That's true. And I have Gabriel to help me." "You'll make a beautiful family." During the pregnancy, Amanda reflected deeply on the legacy she wanted to leave for her child, not just financial, but in values and knowledge. "Gabriel," she said one evening, "I want our child to learn the importance of honest work, careful observation and respect for people and machines. And they will. We have plenty of good examples around us, especially you. You taught me that love and work can go hand in hand. And you taught me that formal knowledge needs to be tempered with practical wisdom." Beatrice was born on a spring morning, healthy and curious. When Amanda held her for the first time, she felt an emotion even greater than any professional success. "Hi, Beatrice," she whispered. "I'm your mother. I'll teach you to see the world with care and attention." Gabriel stood beside her, moved to tears. She's already observing everything around her. She's going to be a curious child, just like her father and mother. The first few months with Catherine were a period of total adjustment. Amanda drastically reduced her travels, focusing on local projects and developing her team. It was during this time that she faced the biggest professional challenge of her career. A petrochemical company in San Jose was going through a severe crisis. 3 processing units had failed simultaneously, causing production shutdowns that cost millions per day. "Amanda," said the company's technical director, "we've already brought in experts from all over the world. No one can identify the cause of the failures." "When did the problem start?" 2 weeks ago. Suddenly, one after another, the units started failing." "What kind of failures?" "Different in each unit. Overheating, pressure loss, product, contamination. Almost like coordinated sabotage." Amanda hesitated. With Catherine still so young, she didn't want to be away from home for long. But this was a case that could affect thousands of jobs. "Can I bring my team, including my husband?" "Of course, whatever it takes." Amanda assembled a task force with her best-trained technicians. Gabriel would handle safety and health aspects while she focused on diagnosing the failures. The petrochemical plant was massive in size and complexity. Dozens of towers, hundreds of pipelines, thousands of valves and instruments. It was like an industrial city. "Where do we start?" asked Paul, one of the technicians Amanda had trained. "With the obvious. We'll examine each failed unit, looking for common elements." 2 days passed as they inspected every facility. The failures were truly distinct, seemingly unrelated. But Amanda felt something was being overlooked. "Gabriel," she said on the second night, "something's bothering me." "What?" "The failures are very different, but they happened in very close succession. There's some common factor we're not seeing." "What kind of factor?" "I don't know. Could be maintenance, could be supplies, could be personnel." On the 3rd day, Amanda decided to focus not on the machines, but on the people. She spoke with operators, maintenance technicians, supervisors. It was a veteran operator, Joseph Roberts, who gave the crucial clue. "Mrs. Miller," he said, "can I tell you something that might be important?" "Of course." 3 weeks ago, we had a safety audit. Outsiders came in, inspected everything, wrote reports, and some of the auditors asked strange questions. They wanted very specific details about how the units operated. Amanda felt a familiar tingling, the same sensation she'd had during the sabotage case in Chicago. "Joseph Roberts, do you remember who these auditors were?" "A company called Industrial Safety Consulting. Never heard of them before." Amanda asked to see the audit reports. Reading carefully, she noticed they contained highly detailed technical information, far more than necessary for a standard audit. "Gabriel," she said, "I think we've been fooled. This wasn't a legitimate audit. It was industrial espionage." "How so?" "Someone posed as auditors to gather intel on the plant's weak points, then used that information to cause the failures." "Sophisticated sabotage?" "Very sophisticated. Whoever did this knows petrochemical processes inside out. Amanda and Gabriel presented their theory to the company's executives. At first, there was skepticism, but the investigation confirmed that Industrial Safety Consulting was a shell company. "But who would do this?" asked the director. "Someone who benefits from our production shutdown," replied the company president. "Competitors, speculators, maybe even criminal groups." The formal investigation was handed over to the authorities. Amanda focused on solving the technical problems caused by the sabotage. It took a week of intense work, but she managed to identify and correct all the malicious changes made to the systems. The 3 units were back to functioning normally. "Amanda," said the company president, "you didn't just solve a technical problem, you uncovered a complex crime. I just applied the same principles as always, observing patterns, listening to people, looking for the common element. Your methods even work for detecting industrial espionage, because at its core, everything is observation and logic." The petrochemical case established Amanda not just as an expert in technical diagnosis, but also in industrial safety. Companies from various industries began seeking her out for vulnerability assessments, but her continued professional success made Amanda reflect on her priorities. With Catherine growing up fast, she wanted to be more present in her daughter's upbringing. "Gabriel," she said one evening, "I've been thinking about cutting back on my schedule even more." "Why?" "I want more time with Catherine. To watch her grow, teach her things, be there for the important moments. Amanda, you don't have to choose between career and family. We can find a balance. I know I can, but I want to choose to be with her more. We have enough money, enough recognition. Now I want time." Gabriel fully supported her decision. Together they reorganized the company so Amanda could work mostly from home, taking only local consultations and special cases. It was during this more homebound period that Amanda developed one of the most important innovations of her career, a remote diagnostic system. "Gabriel," she said one morning, "what if we could diagnose machines from a distance?" "How?" "Sensors that capture sounds, vibrations, temperatures, transmit the data over the internet. We analyze it remotely and provide the diagnosis." "That would be revolutionary, especially for equipment in remote locations." "Exactly. Oil rigs, power plants in isolated areas, hospital equipment in small towns." They spent 6 months developing the system. Amanda contributed her knowledge of failure patterns, while Gabriel handled the sensor and transmission technology, the T. First test was at a hydroelectric plant in rural Colorado. They installed sensors on critical equipment and monitored them remotely for 3 months. "Amanda," Gabriel said after analyzing the data, "we detected 2 potential failures before they happened." "How?" "The sensors picked up subtle changes in operational patterns, changes that indicated future problems. Remote preventive diagnosis." "Exactly. We're not just identifying existing issues, but predicting future ones." The remote diagnostic system was an immediate success. Companies across the country wanted to install the sensors and have access to continuous monitoring. "Amanda," said Robert Jenkins, now the company's managing partner, "this system could transform the entire maintenance industry in the US." "That's what we hope. Preventing problems is much better than fixing them afterward. And you developed this while working from home, taking care of Catherine. Sometimes the best ideas come when you have time to think calmly." When Catherine turned 2, Amanda and Gabriel decided it was time to expand their family again. "Gabriel, do you want more children?" "I do. And you?" "Very much. Catherine needs siblings." "Then let's try." This time the pregnancy took longer to happen. Amanda began to worry, but Gabriel reassured her. "Amanda, there's no rush. It'll happen when the time is right. What if it doesn't? Then we'll consider other options. Adoption, treatments. We have plenty of alternatives." 6 months later, Amanda became pregnant with twins. The news was both joyful and daunting. "Twins," Gabriel said when he saw the ultrasound. "We're going to have 3 little kids at the same time. It's going to be crazy, but a wonderful kind of crazy. We'll need extra help. Mrs. Wilkins has already offered to help. and my mom wants to be involved too. Peter and Paul were born premature but healthy. Amanda spent 2 months focused entirely on motherhood, letting Gabriel and the team handle the business. Amanda, Gabriel said when she finally returned to work part-time. How are you feeling? Tired but happy. 3 kids are a lot of work, but also so much love. And our company keeps growing even without you there full-time. That's a sign we built something sustainable. The business doesn't depend only on me. You created a replicable methodology. Others can apply your principles. It was true. Hope Technical Consulting now had 40 employees, offices in 5 cities, and served clients across the US. Amanda had turned her personal intuition into a solid business system. But at 42, Amanda faced her biggest personal challenge yet. During a routine checkup, the doctor found a lump in her right breast. Amanda, the gynecologist said, "We'll do a biopsy to be sure, but it could be something serious." Amanda felt her world collapse. She had 3 young children, a growing business, a full life. The possibility of a serious illness was terrifying. "Doctor, what are the chances it's malignant?" "I can't say without the biopsy, but let's hope it's benign." That night, Amanda told Gabriel. He held her tight and cried with her. "Amanda, we'll face this together, whatever the result." "What about the kids?" "The kids will have their mother for a long time yet. Everything will be okay. And if it's not, it will be. You're the strongest person I know." The week waiting for the biopsy results was the longest of Amanda's life. She tried to keep her normal routine, caring for the kids, working, but inside she was terrified. "Amanda," Mrs. Wilkins said during a visit, "how are you handling the wait?" "Badly. I can't stop thinking about the worst-case scenario." "Sweetheart, you've faced so many challenges in life. This one won't be any different. But the others were professional. This is personal. It's about my life. And that's exactly why you'll fight even harder." The biopsy results came on a Thursday. It was benign. "Amanda," the doctor said, "you can relax. The lump is benign. We'll just monitor it with regular checkups." Amanda broke down in tears of relief. Gabriel, who was at the appointment, cried too. "Doctor, do I need any treatment?" "No, just monitoring. And keep up with your regular preventive exams." Thank you so much." The health scare made Amanda rethink her priorities again. She realized that as important as her work was, family was what truly mattered. "Gabriel," she said that night, "I want to spend even more time with the kids. Amanda, you've already cut back a lot. I want to cut back more. I want to see every stage of their growth, be part of everything." "What about the business?" "The business is mature now. We have capable professionals, established systems, loyal clients. It can run without me being there all the time." Amanda implemented a new plan. She'd work just 2 days a week, focusing on the most complex cases and strategic guidance. The other 3 days would be solely for family. "Mommy," Beatrice, now 4, asked, "why are you home more now?" "Because I realize time with you is the most important thing in my life." "More important than fixing machines?" "Much more important. Machines can be fixed by other people, but you're one of a kind. Will you teach us how to fix machines too?" Amanda smiled. "If you want to learn, I'll teach you." "But they don't have to want to. They can choose their own paths." "I want to learn," said 2-year-old Peter. "Me too," added Paul. "And I want to be a doctor like Daddy," said Beatrice. "Wonderful. Each of you following your heart." The years that followed were a perfect balance between family and work. Amanda stayed updated with the company's developments, handled the most challenging cases, but devoted most of her time to her children. It was during this period that she received an invitation that deeply honored her. "Amanda," said Gabriel, arriving home from work, "you've received a very special invitation." "What kind of invitation?" "The American Academy of Sciences wants to name you an honorary member." Amanda was stunned. "The American Academy of Sciences, but I'm not a scientist." "According to them, you've developed methodologies that revolutionized technical diagnosis in the country." "That's applied science, but I don't even have a college degree." "And that's exactly why it's so special. You've proven that true knowledge goes beyond academic titles." Amanda was torn. On one hand, It was an incredible honor. On the other, she didn't feel deserving of such recognition. "Gabriel, do you think I should accept?" "Of course you should. You deserve this recognition and much more. But what if they ask me very technical questions at the ceremony?" "You answer with the same honesty you always do. No one expects you to be a traditional academic." Amanda accepted the nomination. The ceremony would be held in New York at the Academy's headquarters. "Amanda," said Robert Jenkins, "do you realize you'll be the first person without a higher education to receive this title? That makes me even more nervous. It should make you proud. You're breaking barriers, showing that talent and dedication matter more than diplomas." The ceremony at the Academy was moving. Amanda was introduced as the American who humanized technical diagnosis, proving that intuition and science can work in harmony. During her acceptance speech, Amanda spoke about her father, about Mrs. Wilkins, about everyone who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. "I received this title not for personal merit, but representing all technicians, mechanics, and operators who know machines through hands-on experience. My father, a simple mechanic, taught me principles that are now studied in universities. This proves that wisdom is everywhere." After the ceremony, Amanda was approached by journalists, researchers, and students. Everyone wanted to understand how a former janitor had reached such heights. "Professor Amanda," asked a young engineering student, "what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?" "First, observe everything around. You carefully. Second, respect machines as partners, not enemies. Third, never stop learning even if it's not in a classroom. And about prejudice, how did you deal with people who doubted your abilities?" "I let the work speak for itself. Results convince more than arguments." Back home, Amanda reflected on the extraordinary journey she had lived. From janitor to member of the American Academy of Sciences, it was a transformation that still amazed her. "Gabriel," she said on the way back, "sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life." "Why?" "Because it all seems too big for a simple person like me." "Amanda, you need to stop seeing yourself as a simple person. You're a professional, recognized internationally. But deep down, I still feel like the curious janitor who wanted to understand how that engine worked. And maybe that's why you've been so successful. You kept your humility and curiosity." When they arrived home, the children ran to hug her. "Mommy," Beatrice shouted, "we saw you on TV." "You looked so beautiful," said Peter. "And she said she learned from Grandpa," added Paul. Amanda crouched down to be at eye level with her children. "You know Grandpa John, my dad, would have been so proud." "Is he watching you from heaven?" asked Beatrice. "I'm sure he is, and he's proud not just of me, but of you too." "Why us?" "Because you're curious, kind, and respectful. The same qualities he taught me." That night, after the children fell asleep, Amanda and Gabriel sat in the backyard, gazing at the stars. "Gabriel, do you know what makes me proudest in this whole journey?" "What?" "It's not the recognition or the awards. It's honoring my father's teachings and passing good values to our kids. You've done so much more than that. You've changed how people think about technical diagnosis. But in the end, what matters is family, love, and honest work. The simple things my father taught me. And that you're teaching our children. I hope so." At 45, Amanda Miller had built a full and meaningful life. Her business thrived, her family was close and happy, and her work continued to positively impact thousands. But she knew her greatest achievement wasn't in titles or money. It was staying true to the values she'd learned in her father's workshop: humility, dedication, and respect for machines and people alike. One morning, as she watched Beatrice, Peter, and Paul playing in the yard, Amanda reflected on how generous life had been to her. From hardship, early widowhood, lack of opportunity, prejudice, she'd drawn strength to build something extraordinary. "Mom," called Beatrice, "come play with us." "Coming," Amanda replied, saving her thoughts for later. Because she'd learned that no matter how important her professional achievements were, the simple moments with family were life's true treasures. As she chased her children across the yard, Amanda smiled. knowing her father would be proud not just of the engineer she'd become, but of the mother, wife, and person she'd grown to be. Life had taken unexpected turns, transforming a curious janitor into the country's most respected technical consultant. But the essentials remained the same: family, love, honest work, and the ability to see beauty and possibility where others saw only problems. That was the real lesson Amanda Miller had learned and would keep teaching. No matter where you start or what obstacles you face, you can always build something meaningful with courage, persistence, and an open heart to learn. And so, on that sunny morning, playing with her children in the modest but love-filled backyard, Amanda knew she'd found the perfect recipe for a fulfilling life. Big dreams paired with small joys, professional success with personal happiness, public recognition with private humility. Her journey from janitor to renowned consultant was far from over. There was still much to teach, learn, and build. But now she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she had the solid foundation that truly mattered: a close family, strong values, and the simple yet profound wisdom she'd inherited from her father. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Amanda went on balancing work and family with grace. At 50, she decided to write a book about her experiences, not just technical but life lessons. Listening to Machines, Listening to Life became a bestseller, inspiring thousands to pursue their dreams regardless of circumstances. Beatrice, following her dream of becoming a doctor, excelled in her studies and enrolled in medical school with a full scholarship. Peter and Paul, now teenagers, showed interest in both engineering and medicine, reflecting the positive influence of their parents. Hope Technical Consulting expanded to other Latin American countries, always maintaining the core principles established by Amanda: respect for people, careful observation, and practical solutions to complex problems. Mrs. Wilkins, now 75, officially retired, but remained an informal advisor to the company, regarded by everyone as the godmother of Amanda's transformation. "Mrs. Wilkins," Amanda said during her retirement party, "you changed my life when you decided to give me a chance with that engine. Dear, I just recognized something that was already inside you. The credit is all yours." "No, the credit is ours, everyone who believed and supported us." Richard and Michael became partner directors of the company, applying the methods they learned from Amanda in their respective fields. The company that nearly shut down became a national and international reference. At 55, Amanda received another important invitation. The US government wanted to create a national technical training program based on her methods. Amanda, the Secretary of Education, said during a meeting in Washington, D.C., "We want to democratize your techniques, bring them to technical schools across the country. Mr. Secretary, my methods aren't mine. They're my father's, Mrs. Wilkins, everyone who contributed. I'm happy to share." How do you see this being implemented on a national scale? Carefully. It's important to keep the essence: respect, observation, practice. It can't just become theory. Amanda agreed to oversee the program but set clear conditions. It had to be highly practical, with instructors trained by her team and always maintaining a focus on human development alongside technical skills. The National Program for Intuitive Technical Diagnosis launched in 50 technical schools, shaping a new generation of professionals who combined formal knowledge with practical sensitivity. During her travels to monitor the program, Amanda reunited with many people who had marked her journey. At a technical school in Colorado, she met Joseph Roberts, the operator who had given the crucial clue in the petrochemical case. "Mrs. Miller," he said, emotional, "now I'm an instructor here, teaching the methods I learned from you." Joseph Roberts: "What a joy. How's life?" "Great. My son is studying engineering and wants to work in technical diagnosis." "That's wonderful. You're multiplying knowledge. That's what I learned from you. Good knowledge must be shared." At another school in the South, Amanda met a young woman named Anne Louise who reminded her of herself at 20, curious, determined, but lacking opportunities. "Professor Miller," Anne Louise said, "can I ask a personal question?" "Of course." "How did you handle people who doubted your abilities?" By focusing on the work, not the criticism, and remembering that those who doubt are often afraid of their own potential. It's hard sometimes. It is. But every obstacle you overcome prepares you for the next challenge. Can you give me advice? Never stop learning, never stop observing, and never let anyone convince you you're not capable. Anne Louise's eyes lit up, and Amanda knew she was planting a seed that would bloom in the future. At 60, Amanda decided it was time for a deeper transition. She passed the company presidency to Gabriel, staying on as an advisor and mentor. "Gabriel," she said during the inauguration ceremony, "the company is in much better hands than mine. Amanda, you created something extraordinary. I'll just keep nurturing it. And changing when necessary. Companies need to evolve, always with the core values you established." Beatrice had graduated from medical school and specialized in bioengineering, combining her father's medical knowledge with her mother's technical intuition. Peter was studying mechanical engineering, and Paul was pursuing medicine, both standing out for their practical and human-centered approach. "Mom," Beatrice said during a family dinner, "I want to create an institute that combines medicine and engineering, using your methods." An institute? Yes, to develop more intuitive medical equipment that doctors and technicians can understand naturally. "That's a wonderful idea. You have my full support." Peter and Paul also had ambitious plans. Peter wanted to apply his mother's methods to environmental sustainability. Paul dreamed of using intuitive diagnosis in emergency medical equipment. "Kids," Amanda said, moved, "you're taking Grandpa John's teachings into areas he never even imagined." "It's our way of honoring his legacy, and yours, Mom," Peter replied. "And building our own path," Paul added. Amanda smiled, realizing she had achieved something few parents do, raising children who honor the past while building the future. At 65, Amanda received a tribute that deeply moved her. The town where it all began opened a technical school in her name, the Amanda Miller Technical Training Center. "Amanda," the mayor said during the inauguration, "this school represents the values you brought to our town: honest work, perseverance, and the belief that talent can flourish anywhere." Amanda was accompanied by her entire family, including grandchildren Beatrice had given her. Mrs. Wilkins, now 85 but still sharp and active, sat in the front row. "Everyone," Amanda said in her speech, "this school isn't just an honor for me, it's a promise to you, a promise that anyone, no matter their background, can achieve their dreams through education and dedication. My father, John Miller, taught me that machines speak to those who know how to listen. Today, I'll add, life speaks to those brave enough to listen. May the students here learn to listen, both to machines and to their own aspirations." After the ceremony, Amanda visited the old Hope Metal Works, now Hope Technical Consulting. The place was unrecognizable, modern, high-tech, yet still holding the human spirit she had nurtured. "Amanda," said Robert Jenkins, now Director Emeritus, "you didn't just transform this company. You changed how we see human potential." "Robert, I only brought here what I learned in my father's workshop. The credit goes to everyone who embraced this philosophy, and still embraces it. We have technicians trained here working in dozens of countries, carrying forward the values that truly matter." Exactly. That night at home, Amanda sat in her office surrounded by mementos of her journey, photos with Mrs. Wilkins, diplomas, thank you letters from companies worldwide, but most of all, family pictures. Gabriel found her there, deep in thought. "What's on your mind? How surprising life is. 30 years ago, I was a desperate janitor looking for work. Now our children are changing the world with knowledge that started in my father's workshop. You planted seeds that will keep growing for generations. We planted them. You, me, Mrs. Wilkins, Richard, Michael. Everyone who believed real knowledge has no social boundaries. And now? Now I want to enjoy our grandchildren, travel with you and be there for anyone who needs guidance. An active retirement. The only kind that makes sense to me." At 70, Amanda Miller had become a living legend. Universities around the world studied her methods, companies applied her techniques, but she remained the same simple and approachable person she'd always been. During an international conference on industrial innovation, a young researcher asked, "Professor Miller, what do you consider your greatest achievement?" Amanda thought for a moment before answering, "Proving that greatness has no social origin. That a simple person with solid values and a willingness to learn can contribute significantly to the world." And what advice would you give to young people who want to follow in your footsteps? Don't follow in my footsteps. Create your own paths. I just showed it was possible. You must show it's replicable. At that same conference, Anne Louise, the young woman she'd met years earlier at the technical school in the South, was present as a graduate engineer and creator of an innovative method for diagnosing renewable energy systems. "Professor Amanda," Anne Louise said at the end of the conference, "I want to thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself." "Anne Louise, what a joy! I saw your presentation. You exceeded all expectations. I applied everything I learned from you: observation, respect for machines, and most of all, self-confidence. And now you're teaching others." "Yes, I have a small company, but I've already trained 20 technicians specialized in solar energy." "Perfect, the cycle continues." "It always continues, Professor. That's what you taught us." At 75, Amanda published her second book, The Legacy We Built Together, a reflection on how individual transformations can create collective change. The book became required reading in business and engineering courses, not for its technical aspects, but for the human philosophy it presented. "True success," Amanda wrote in the final chapter, "isn't measured by what we achieve for ourselves, but by what we enable others to achieve." That same year, Gabriel began showing symptoms of a degenerative neurological disease. It was a blow to the whole family, but Amanda faced it with the same determination she'd always applied to challenges. "Gabriel," she said, "we'll fight this together." "Amanda, you've already fought so much in life. And I'll keep fighting. For you, for our children, for our grandchildren. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll know we did everything we could, but it will work." Amanda rearranged her life to care for Gabriel, keeping him as active and involved as possible. She adapted their home, hired specialized caregivers, but above all surrounded him with love and tenderness. During those years of caregiving, Amanda discovered a new side of herself, the devoted caretaker. She applied the same attentive observation she'd used with machines to her husband's health, anticipating needs, noticing subtle signs of improvement or decline. "Mom," Beatrice said, "you're overworking yourself." "I'm not. I'm returning. The love I received for so many years. But you need to take care of your health too." "I am. And I'll keep taking care of him as long as it's necessary." Gabriel lived 5 more years with a quality of life far beyond what doctors had predicted. Amanda credited this not just to medical treatments, but to the environment of love and encouragement she'd created around him. "Amanda," Gabriel said during one of his last lucid conversations, "thank you for a lifetime of partnership. Thank you for teaching me that love and work can go hand in hand. Take care of yourselves. Keep up the work. The world needs people like you. We'll keep going, you can be sure of that." Gabriel passed peacefully, surrounded by family. Amanda was by his side, holding his hand, whispering words of love and gratitude. The funeral was a testament to the impact Gabriel had made. Hundreds of people attended. Patients he had treated, fellow doctors, company employees, students he had mentored. "Gabriel Foster," said Amanda during the eulogy, "he was my husband, the father of my children, but above all, my partner in the mission to use knowledge to help people. He lives on in every life we've touched, every problem we've solved, every person we've guided." After Gabriel's passing, Amanda went through a natural period of mourning, but didn't give in to sadness. At 80 years old, she still had much to contribute. "Grandma," said John, Beatrice's son and her eldest grandson, "are you going to be sad forever?" "No, my dear, I'll miss him forever, but I won't be sad. Because I have you all, I have important work to do, and I have so many good memories. Can you teach me how to fix things like you did with Grandpa John?" Amanda smiled, the 5th generation wanting to learn the teachings that began in her father's workshop. "Of course, let's start with something simple. How about a broken toy? Yay! Can I call my cousins? Absolutely. Knowledge is always better when shared. Amanda spent the following years dedicating herself intensely to her grandchildren. She taught them not just technical skills, but above all, values, honesty, perseverance, humility, and respect for people and machines. "Grandma," asked Sophie, her 12-year-old granddaughter, "why were people surprised when you fixed that engine?" "Because they thought a janitor couldn't understand machines. But that's silly, right?" "It is silly. Intelligence and ability don't depend on the job a person does or the money they have. So anyone can learn anything? Anyone can learn anything if they have curiosity, dedication, and opportunity. And if they don't have the opportunity, then they have to create it. That's what I did." At 85, Amanda was approached by a documentary filmmaker who wanted to share her story with new generations. "Mrs. Miller," the director said, "so your story needs to be preserved. It's an inspiration for millions. My story isn't special, it's just proof that circumstances don't determine destinies. That's exactly why it is special." The documentary Amanda Miller, the Janitor, Who Changed Engineering was released on national and international platforms, translated into 15 languages. During the interviews for the film, Amanda reflected deeply on her journey. "What makes me proudest," she said, "isn't the titles or recognition. It's having kept the values my father taught me. Simplicity, honesty, respect for people." And what message would you like to leave for future generations? Never underestimate your potential. Never let others define your limits. And always remember, true knowledge comes from the heart, not just the mind. The documentary was a global success, inspiring thousands to pursue their dreams, regardless of their starting circumstances. Amanda began receiving letters from people worldwide, sharing how her story had impacted their lives. One letter in particular moved her. "Dear Mrs. Miller, I'm a young woman from Bangladesh, working as a janitor in a textile factory. Watching your documentary, I realized I could learn about the machines I clean every day. I started observing, asking questions. Now I'm being trained as a maintenance technician. Thank you for teaching me there's no small job, only people who don't believe in their own potential." "See," Amanda said to Beatrice after reading the letter, "the seeds keep sprouting in places we never imagined. It's your legacy, Mom. You didn't just change machines, you changed minds." Our legacy, everyone who believed and took part. At 90 years old, Amanda Miller was still active, though at a slower pace. She often received visits from former students, colleagues, and researchers who wanted to meet the living legend in person. Mrs. Wilkins had passed away 2 years earlier at the age of 95, but not before seeing Amanda receive the title of Dr. Honoris Causa from 5 different universities. "Mrs. Wilkins," Amanda had said during their last meeting, "thank you for believing in me when I was just a curious janitor." "My dear," Mrs. Wilkins replied, "I always knew you were special. I just helped you see it." Now, alone in the house she had shared with Gabriel, Amanda spent her days reading, corresponding, and receiving visits from family. Each grandchild and great-grandchild learned from her not just mechanical skills, but above all, human values. "Great-grandma," asked Michael, her 8-year-old great-grandson, "were you really a janitor?" "Yes, I was. And weren't you sad?" "Sometimes I was. But my father taught me that all honest work has dignity." "And how did you learn to fix machines?" "By watching, listening, respecting." Machines speak to those who know how to listen. Like people? Like people. Everything in life speaks, Michael. We just need to learn to listen. One autumn afternoon, at 92 years old, Amanda sat on the porch watching the garden when she felt a familiar presence. She couldn't explain it rationally, but she was certain her father was there, proud and smiling. "Dad," she whispered, "did I honor your teachings?" A gentle breeze rustled the trees, and Amanda smiled. She knew the answer was yes. That night, Amanda sat at her desk for the last time. She wrote a letter to each of her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Simple letters, full of love and wisdom. To Catherine, keep healing people and machines with the same dedication. You inherited the best from your father and mother. To Peter, use your knowledge to care for the planet. Future generations depend on people like you. To Paul, save lives with science and compassion. It's the perfect combination. To each grandchild, be curious, be kind, be brave. The world needs the best of you. To the great-grandchildren, always listen, always learn, always love. It's the recipe for a fulfilling life. Amanda Miller passed away peacefully that night at 92, certain of a life well lived and a solid legacy left behind. Her funeral was a celebration of the extraordinary life she had built. Thousands attended, from company presidents to janitors inspired by her story. Amanda Miller, Catherine said during the eulogy, taught us that greatness has no social origin, that a simple person with strong values and an open heart can change the world around them. She proved that true knowledge doesn't come just from books, but from careful observation, respect for people and machines, and above all, the courage to believe in one's own potential. My mother is gone, but her teachings live on in every technician who listens to machines, in every person who refuses to be limited by circumstances, in all of us who learned that the impossible is just an opinion. Hope Technical Consulting established a foundation in Amanda Miller's name to train technicians in underserved communities. The foundation's motto was simple: every person has potential, every person deserves opportunity. The Amanda Miller Technical Training Center expanded into a network of schools applying her methods nationwide. Her intuitive diagnosis techniques became a required subject in engineering programs at several universities. But Amanda Miller's true legacy wasn't in institutions or methods. It was in the transformation of mindsets, in the certainty that talent can flourish anywhere, in the living proof that origin doesn't determine destiny. Years after her passing, technicians around the world still applied her teachings. Janitors still drew inspiration from her story to believe in their own potential. Engineers still combined formal science with practical intuition. And in a small town in suburban Chicago, in the workshop that had once belonged to John Miller, a young mechanic was teaching his daughter to listen to machines, perpetuating a wisdom passed down through generations. "Daddy," the little girl asked, "why do you always say machines have a soul?" "Because they do, sweetheart, and those who treat them with care and respect can hear what they're saying." Like Aunt Amanda used to? Exactly like Aunt Amanda used to. And so the teachings of John Miller, multiplied by the courage of Amanda Miller, lived on, proving that some lessons transcend time and space, enduring through people who believe true knowledge knows no social boundaries. Amanda Miller's story had become legend, but a legend rooted in truth, that an ordinary person with strong values and the courage to believe in themselves can truly change the world around them, and that sometimes the most important transformations begin with simple gestures, giving someone a chance, believing in human potential, and always remembering that greatness has no social origin. Amanda Miller had proven that beyond doubt, from janitor to legend, from curious observer to master, from invisible to worldwide inspiration, but above all, from an ordinary person to an extraordinary example that there are no ordinary people, only those who haven't yet discovered their own potential. And that perhaps is the greatest lesson of all. The end. Now, tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share, leave us an honest comment. Do you think Amanda made the right decisions along her journey? We'd love to hear your thoughts on how an ordinary person can truly transform their life through observation, dedication, and courage. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories like this one.